Chapter 1388. Lu Shan was stunned because she thought that Yunjian's bag must be filled with books related to learning. Therefore, she had asked her daughter, little Yuan, to knock over Yunjian's bag. She thought that Yunjian's bag was either filled with books related to learning or those weapons books that she used to put on an act. However, Lu Shan had never expected that Yunjian's bag would be filled with all sorts of butterfly knives, razor blades, and daggers. Moreover, there was a whole bunch of them. What was she trying to do? Kill someone. She was just a girl. Although she had been admitted to the military academy, she was just a girl. Why would her bag be filled with all sorts of small knives instead of books related to learning? Lu Shan was stunned at the moment. Lu Shan's son, Ningxing, was stunned as well. When Ningxing first saw Yunjian, he thought that Yunjian was just a gentle and quiet girl. He thought that Yunjian was the kind of girl who would follow the path of life and listen to her parents, study hard and get into high school. When Yunjian was reading the books earlier, he thought that Yunjian was looking at the learning material. He even had the illusion that he was in love with Yunjian. However, he had never expected that Yunjian's bag would be filled with knives. Not just one. They were all knives. Just when Ningxing was extremely shocked, Lu Shan's astonished voice had already come. She shouted in a panic, "Oh my God! You're a girl. It's normal for you to have books on weapons in your bag. Why aren't there any textbooks in your bag? There's only a black pen. Everything else is knives. Why are you so weird, little girl?" Lu Shan's screams quickly attracted the attention of the other employees in the florist. Qin Yiru was also attracted by Lu Shan's screams. She saw that her daughter Yunjian's bag had been overturned and that it was filled with all sorts of knives. "Oh my God! Everyone, come and take a look. Yiru, your daughter's bag is filled with knives." Those who didn't know better would think that he was going to kill someone. Look! Lu Shan's shouts continued unabated. After the commotion, even the manager of the flower shop, Wen Min, came back. Yunjian lowered her eyes. Lu Shan was still hooting. "Pick it up." Just as Lu Shan's long-winded words continued, Yunjian's faint voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this, everyone present was stunned. Lu Shan was also stunned. She didn't expect that Yunjian would actually shout at her daughter, little Yuan, to pick up the knife that had fallen over. Lu Shan's little daughter, little Yuan, who loved to cause trouble, pretended not to hear Yunjian's words. She even pulled Yunjian's bag and shook out the last thing in Yunjian's bag. Hee. Fun. Lu Shan's daughter, little Yuan, even laughed out loud. Then, she patted Yunjian's bag and tossed it to the ground. "Pick it up." Yunjian raised her voice. She frowned and suddenly raised her voice. Her shout frightened Lu Shan's daughter, little Yuan, so much so that she trembled and burst into tears. This bag was the one that Qin Yiru had bought for her. When Qin Yiru saw this, she was about to go up and help Lu Shan's daughter, little Yuan, pick up her bag when she was stopped by Yunjian. "I was just about to test the power of these knives. Are you guys trying to challenge my limits?" Yunjian said casually, but the words that came out of her mouth made one's hair stand on end. I'll pick it up. Lu Shan was shocked. She was afraid that Yunjian would really do something to her daughter, so she quickly squatted down to pick up the knives one by one and put them back into the bag. Lu Shan was picking up the knives, but her attention was still on Yunjian. Qin Yiru went to Yunjian worriedly. Qin Yiru asked Yunjian worriedly, "Xiao Jian, 2 or 3 knives are enough. Why did you bring so many?" Hearing Qin Yiru's question, the employees around them, including the florist manager, Wen Min, were stunned. What did she mean by, 2 or 3 knives are enough? Was this how she, as a mother, should educate her child? In spite of it, what came next shocked them even more. Yunjian's red lips curled up as she told Qin Yiro with a smile, "My friend collected these 21 butterfly knives and gave them to me." What kind of friend had such a hobby? Collecting butterfly knives as gifts. Chapter 1389. Your friend, male or female, actually gave you a knife. Wen Min looked at Yunjian in shock. She did not mean any harm, she was just a little shocked. Yunjian glanced at Wen Min. She heard from Qin Yiro that Wen Min was a very kind person. Although she was the owner and manager of the flower shop, she was never harsh on her employees. She would even treat her employees for a meal, and she would pay for all the expenses. Considering that the employees in the shop were all women in their 30s and 40s who had to rush home to cook for their children or husbands, Wen Min even asked the employees to invite their families over for a meal. There were not many managers like this in this day and age. It could be said that they were extremely rare. She's a girl. She's my best friend. Yunjian's red eyes widened slightly as she replied to Wen Min. Yunjian's expression was very serious when she spoke. It did not seem like she was joking. At this time, Lu Shan quickly picked up all the knives that her daughter had scattered on the ground. Lu Shan stood up straight. She had been watching Yunjian's every move. Now that she heard Yunjian's words, Lu Shan did not wait for Wen Min to speak and spoke first. "Ha, what friends of life and death. What kind of ups and downs can you guys go through at this age? I'm afraid you guys haven't even stepped out of society yet. How can you be my best friend? Young people, you should be more realistic when you speak." Lu Shan had ordered her daughter to flip through Yunjian's bag. She thought that she had the upper hand in front of Yunjian. However, she did not expect Yunjian to threaten her with such a tone. Lu Shan loved her daughter very much, so she quickly rushed over to help Yunjian pick up the knife. She was afraid that Yunjian would do something to her daughter. Lu Shan's tone was sarcastic, but the people around them could hear the displeasure she felt toward Yunjian in her words. Yunjian ignored her. Therefore, the atmosphere quickly became gloomy. "Ha, it's time to get off work. Go pack up and go to the restaurant. Everyone can go for lunch." Wen Min finally felt that the atmosphere was not good, so she suggested. Hearing Wen Min's words, everyone agreed. Lu Shan also felt that it was boring, so she took her son and daughter to the restaurant first. "Mom, let's go," Yunjian said to Qin Yiro as she stood up and zipped up her bag. I'll go wash my hands first." Qin Yiro nodded and went to the back door of the florist. The Kulai Xian restaurant was just an ordinary restaurant with a large round table. There were many employees in the flower shop, so Wen Min arranged 2 tables for them. After everyone sat down, Yunjian found that Lu Shan and her son and daughter were also sitting at the same table as her and Qin Yiro. Manager Wen Min was also sitting at the same table as him. Yunjian lowered her eyes and didn't say anything. At the dining table, a large group of people immediately started chatting. After a while, the topic turned to the children's studies. Lu Shan was still holding a grudge. At this moment, she could not wait to present Yunjian's poor studies in front of everyone. Of course, it was Lu Shan's own opinion that Yunjian was poor in her studies. After all, why would a girl who was good in her studies go to a military school? Of course, her results were good when she got into a military school, but Lu Shan remembered Qin Yiro saying that Yunjian was the default candidate for the military school. If that was the case, Yunjian's results must be poor. My son's school is number 3 high school. He didn't do well in the middle school entrance exam, but he still got into a regular high school, Lu Shan boasted proudly before turning to ask Qin Yiro. Yiro, your daughter got into a military school. Her results should be okay, right? How's her middle school entrance exam results? Lu Shan asked. However, she thought to herself, How good can her results be if she was sent there by default? Adults at this age like to talk about their children's results. If they were good in their studies, it meant that they had a bright future ahead of them. They did not know that they were extremely stupid. My results are average. Yunjian did not let Qin Yiro continue the conversation and answered calmly. Lu Shan's smile widened when she heard that. However, before Lu Shan's smile could widen, Yunjian's words were heard in the next second, startling every parent present. Chapter 1390. It was just an accident. When Lu Shan first heard Yunjian say this, she thought that Yunjian would say an unbearably low result, so she was already pressing her lips together, ready to laugh out loud after Yunjian announced her results. However, Yunjian said, "I was just an accident and got first place in the city." First place in the city. First place in Longmen City. This result was just an accident? Lu Shan was stunned. She maintained her posture of moving her chopsticks to pick up a piece of pork trotter. She was stunned on the spot. Oh my God! First place in the city. Yiru, your daughter got first place in the city. Before Lu Shan could recover from her shock, a woman who was also a florist stood up and exclaimed at Qin Yiru. Yiru, you said that your daughter got first place in the city. Why didn't you mention it? There's more. Your daughter is so good in her studies, why did you let her go to the military school? Why didn't you let her apply for DE High School? Our DE High School's cutoff is so high, but your daughter can do it. Can your daughter get in? She's the first in the city. Someone stood up and told Qin Yiru immediately. DE High School was a key public high school in Longmen City. The cutoff was very high and it was also the best high school in Longmen City. This was just the objective aspect. In general, the students who graduated from DE High School were the most promising students in the eyes of their parents. Yunyi was a student of DE High School. Therefore, when the people present heard that Yunjian's cutoff was so high, their first thought was, why didn't she apply for DE High School with such good results? No one noticed that Lu Shan's face was paling bit by bit. She looked so ashamed that she was speechless. My Jianjian wants to go to the military school. She's quite talented, so I support her to choose what she wants to do. Qin Yiru chuckled with a hand over her mouth in response to the crowd. Qin Yiru was very low-key and humble. She was very kind to others and was not vain. Although she had such an excellent daughter, she never bragged about it. To be able to do this, it had to be said that people like Qin Yiru were very rare. The surrounding women sighed. Everyone felt that it was a pity that Yunjian didn't go to the first high school with her grades. Lu Shan, who was a little ashamed just now, suddenly raised her head. That was right. Even if Yunjian had gotten first place before, she was still the former top student of Longmen City. She was stupid to have chosen the military school. That was all in the past. Lu Shan instantly raised her head to look at Yunjian. Then, she said to Yunjian with a bit of confidence, "You're a girl, and you're going to the bottom of the military academy. You're not willing to go to a key high school to further your studies. Isn't that stupid?" Lu Shan's words made Yunjian raise her eyebrows. At the bottom. Yunjian raised her eyebrows and almost couldn't help but chuckle. When did she say that she was at the bottom of the military academy? Isn't that so? You're a girl, and you want to compete with boys in terms of strength. Do you think you can beat him? Lu Shan said in succession, and there was a strong sense of confidence in her voice. Was there a need for a girl to compete with a boy in terms of strength? Of course, it was the boys who were stronger. Just as Lu Shan finished speaking, Yunjian took out a certificate from her pocket and placed it in front of Qin Yiru. She ignored Lu Shan directly and spoke to Qin Yiru instead. "Mom, I'm first place in the freshmen's military training this time. There are 3 freshmen who entered the elite class directly. I'm one of them while the other two are my friends. The school gave this certificate to me as a reward for being the first place. I can take leave and leave school anytime during classes in the future. There's no need for any reason. As she spoke, before Lu Shan and the rest could digest it, Yun Jian spoke again while they were still stunned. Chapter 1391. What Yun Jian said stunned everyone present. First of all, Yun Jian had won first place in the military training. No one present was surprised that the military school would rank students for their military training. What they did not expect, however, was that Yun Jian had won first place in the military training. That, moreover, the women present were mostly parents. To them, their children's studies were the most important. In Longmen City, being able to get into DE High School was akin to being the top scorer in ancient times to many parents. Yet, Yun Jian said that her brother had represented DE High School in the language competition and won first place in the province. For the time being, let's not talk about winning the provincial first prize, which was enough to shock people to the core. Based on the first part of the sentence, was Yun Jian's brother not Qin Yiru's son? Qin Yiru had a son and her son had gotten into DE High School. Her daughter was so outstanding that she had won first place among the freshmen when she had just entered the school. Ah! Yiru, your son and daughter are so outstanding. Even the store manager, Wen Min, stood up in shock as she looked at Qin Yiru and exclaimed in bewilderment. Qin Yiru did not expect Yun Jian to blurt everything out. She was taken aback as well, only coming back to her senses after a while. My Xiao Jian and Xiao Yi are only this good. As a mother, I'm quite happy, Qin Yiru said with a smile. Exactly. If I had a daughter and son as good as you, I'd be over the moon. Sigh, speaking of this, I'm pissed off when I think of my disappointing son. Wen Min chimed in as well, but she was smiling at Yun Jian and Qin Yiru the entire time. There was a tinge of helplessness in her tone, but it was more genuine than anything else. Qin Yiru soon struck up a friendly conversation with the other employees in the store. Knowing that Qin Yiru's son and daughter were so outstanding, many of them took the initiative to befriend Qin Yiru. People were all like that. It wasn't surprising that they would follow whoever was outstanding. However, Yun Jian had achieved her goal. She wanted Qin Yiru to have a better life in the flower shop and make more friends. Of course, Qin Yiru's original intention of working in the flower shop was to make more friends. Lu Shan recovered from her shock. Although she was unwilling, she couldn't say anything at this moment. She could only stare blankly. In the end, Lu Shan was so angry that she nearly vomited blood. It was because his son had failed to live up to his expectations and kept staring at Yun Jian as if he was completely infatuated with her. So you're studying at Min City's military academy? I'm studying in 3rd high school. You're welcome to hang out with me. Ningxing stared straight at Yun Jian as he invited her. Ningxing had snuck out of school to go on a date with his girlfriend. However, ever since he saw Yun Jian, his heart had been hooked by Yun Jian. He even chased her all the way here and shamelessly sat down at her table. Yun Jian ignored him. At this moment, a woman at the same table pointed at the door and exclaimed, "Wow, what a handsome young man." Just as the woman finished, Yun Jian turned to look and met a pair of sharp, dark eyes that were as sharp as an eagle's. The man made his way over after meeting Yun Jian's gaze. Every movement he made as he made his way over was so cool that it was enough to make all the women in the room squeal in delight. Whose family is this young man from? He's so handsome, another woman exclaimed. Chapter 1392. He was the only one who could accompany her, no matter where it was. Ce stared fixedly at Yun Jian as if he wanted to bore a hole through Yun Jian. Yun Jian was a little embarrassed by Ce's words. Besides, there were so many people around. She lowered her head out of shyness when Ce grabbed her hand. Qin Yiru, who was sitting beside Yunjian, covered her mouth and laughed silently. Qin Yiru was about to speak when Ningxing, who was sitting opposite Yunjian and had been staring at Yunjian, looked at Ce in disbelief. Then he asked Yunjian, "Who is he?" It was as if they were denouncing Yunjian for her crimes. Yunjian heard Ningxing's words and reached out to grab Ce's large hand. Then she replied softly, She considered that Ce was too busy, so she didn't ask Ce to accompany her to the Amazon forest. She also asked Mad Dragon to go with her because Mad Dragon was also an assassin from Enhun. There were 3 assassins who had survived with Yunjian from Enhun. Besides Yunjian, Mad Dragon was one of them. Mad Dragon was also there when she was sent to the organization, so Mad Dragon knew Muing. Yunjian knew that Mad Dragon and Muing had some feelings for each other when they were young. Although they were not even 10 years old at that time, Mad Dragon and Muing liked each other. When Muing died in place of Yunjian, Mad Dragon was tricked out by a group of children in the organization. That was why Mad Dragon only found out about Mu Ying's death. At that time, Kuang Long was on the brink of insanity. The only thing Yunjian knew after that was that Kuang Long killed all the people who tricked him out. Yunjian asked Mad Dragon to wait for them in the Amazon forest because she wanted Muing and Mad Dragon to meet. She didn't know that Ce would be so jealous that he sent Mad Dragon away. What Amazon forest? Speaking of which, Yiru, why is your daughter being intimate with an outsider in front of you? You have to keep a close eye on such an outstanding daughter. Don't let some riffraff kidnap her. Lu Shan had spoken with the intention of competing with Yunjian, but now that she saw how outstanding Yunjian was and that her son, Ningxing, was interested in Yunjian, Lu Shan wanted her son to marry such an outstanding daughter. She might be jealous, but she would be part of her family once they married her. Lu Shan was shameless. She had treated Yunjian this way in the beginning, but when she saw that Yunjian was good-looking, capable, and had a brother who studied in DE High School, Lu Shan thought to herself. That was how Lu Shan thought of it. She should take a look at how her son looked like. Lu Shan thought that Qin Yiru would reign in Yunjian and the man's entanglement, but Qin Yiru ignored her and stood up to speak to Ce. Ae, you're back. Come, sit beside Xiao Jian. I'll find another seat. As she spoke, Qin Yiru moved away from the seat beside Yunjian and found another seat to sit down. It was only after she was seated that Qin Yiru replied, Entangling with an outsider. Since when did my Xiao Jian entangle with an outsider? As she spoke, Qin Yiru really did not know what Lu Shan was referring to as she looked around. Qin Yiru was not pretending. She really did not know. Lu Shan's face darkened when she heard what Lu Shan said. There, aren't they entangling with an outsider? Lu Shan pointed at Ce and Yunjian exasperately. It was then that Qin Yiru realized that Lu Shan was referring to Ce. Chapter 1393. In Qin Yiru's heart, she had long treated Ce as family. To Qin Yiru, Ce was family. Therefore, Qin Yiru did not react when Lu Shan said that Yunjian was messing around with an outsider. When she heard Qin Yiru say that Ce was her chosen son-in-law and that Ce was family, Lu Shan nearly vomited blood in anger. Lu Shan thought that Qin Yiru would realize that her daughter was messing around with a man after what she said just now. Who knew that she would say, Yiru, are you serious? Your daughter is still so young and she already has a chosen son-in-law. When Min asked in disbelief, taking a few more glances at Ce. Ce was handsome. His fair complexion coupled with his murderous eyes made it impossible for anyone to ignore his presence. That was all it took to describe his handsomeness. When Min asked out of pure curiosity. Since she had asked this, When Min couldn't help but ask another question. Of course, her tone was still mixed with the weight of a joke. Don't tell me that you've arranged a marriage for your daughter. Wen Min's words sparked a conversation between everyone and Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru chuckled with a hand over her mouth and replied to Wen Min, "Of course not. I advocate for children to love freely. Look, my Xiao Jian and Ae are interested in each other. I can't stop them from being together, can I? Ae's a rare good kid." Qin Yiru was not an extremely old-fashioned person. To her, it was fine as long as Yunjian was happy. Lu Shan was about to vomit blood when she heard what Qin Yiru said at the end. Lu Shan had never expected Qin Yiru to be so optimistic about her daughter's relationship. She was still thinking of having her son abduct such an outstanding daughter from Qin Yiru's family. Ce had already taken the seat that Qin Yiru vacated for him. When he turned to look, he could already tell what Lu Shan, the old hag, was up to. Since he came in, he could feel Ningxing's gaze sizing up his Xiao Jian as if his life depended on it. Ce did not let go of Yunjian's hand even after he took his seat. His other hand reached into his trouser pocket to take out a large booklet and placed it on the round table before spinning the turntable to move it to Qin Yiru. "This is my marriage certificate with Xiao Jian. It's registered in country. We're real." He and Xiao Jian were real now, they were real, so he did not mind letting more people know about it. Ce said as he turned the booklet to Qin Yiru. No one expected Ce to do this, so everyone stopped what they were doing when they heard Ce's mellow voice. This is... Lu Shan was stunned. She thought that Ce and Yunjian were just a couple and did not expect Ce to take out his marriage certificate. Aren't you still underage? Lu Shan did not even realize that there was a marriage certificate in country R. She only knew that Yunjian and Ce were married. "It's a marriage certificate in country R. Xiao Jian and I are husband and wife now, so we're protected by the law," Ce cut Lu Shan off, speaking to Qin Yiru. Everyone thought that Qin Yiru would scold Yunjian and Ce. After all, it was one thing to admit that Yunjian and Ce were together, but it was another thing to register their marriage as it was protected by the law. Who would have thought that Qin Yiru would clap her hands excitedly? She opened her mouth openly and shamelessly under everyone's gaze, saying, "Great. We've even registered our marriage. Ae, you're amazing. It'll be legal and reasonable for Xiao Jian to give birth to a grandson or granddaughter soon." Chapter 1394. Qin Yiru accidentally blurted out her true thoughts. Once Qin Yiru said it, Yunjian's cheeks flushed instantly. Lu Shan's face darkened at the same time. Ningxing froze on the spot, looking at Yunjian and Ce in disbelief. She was married. Did that mean he had no chance? Ningxing did not even think about what kind of person he was and whether he was worthy of Yunjian. Most importantly, Ningxing had a girlfriend of his own. His girlfriend must have left in a fit of anger at him for standing her up. While everyone was stunned, Ce raised a brow with a slight smirk and uttered words that made everyone's imagination run wild in the next second, "I'll work hard." It was a continuation of what Qin Yiru said earlier. Once he heard Ce's half-understood words, Ningxing's face darkened as if he had just eaten dog poop. Lu Shan's face darkened as well. "Jian, we're here." Just as Yunjian's head was about to hit the floor in embarrassment, 3 people walked into the restaurant. The person who led the way to greet Yunjian was Chen Sini. Chen Sini shook her head at Yunjian and ran over to grab Yunjian's other free hand, telling her, "Yunjian, I'm not going anywhere." "Jian, you're back. When you said you were here just now, I dragged Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen over to look for you. They even said they wanted ice cream before coming over." "Ha!" I directly threw away the ice cream in their hands. "Don't you think I'm amazing?" Chen Sini knew that Yunjian was coming back today, so she asked Yunjian where she was on the phone just now. When she found out that Yun Jian was at the restaurant, Chen Xinyi happened to be nearby, so she dragged Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen over. After graduating from junior high school, everyone was admitted to different high schools. Chen Xinyi and her friends were still studying in Longmen City, but Yun Jian had gone to Min City. Chen Xinyi and her friends had just finished their military training, so they were on break now that it was school time. Yun Jian snapped out of her shyness and looked up to meet Chen Xinyi's gaze that said, "Praise me, praise me." "You're tanned," Yun Jian commented quietly as she glanced at Chen Xinyi and her friends. "Oh, it's Xinyi. Are you guys playing around here too? It's been a while since I saw you. Come visit me when you're free." Qin Yiru greeted Chen Xinyi when she saw her. In spite of it, Chen Xinyi and her friends were rooted to the spot by Yun Jian's casual remark. Jian, don't be so direct." Chen Xinyi covered her face in disbelief. The group of people around them were attracted by Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi's interaction. Lu Shan and Ning Xing looked over as well. "Oh right, Jian, I heard that there are 3 people from your military school who entered the elite class directly. You're one of them. Hey, what's the benefit of entering the elite class?" Chen Xinyi and her friends paid close attention to anything that happened in the military school because Yun Jian had gone to the military school. The news of Yun Jian successfully passing the military training's wilderness survival event and entering the elite class had spread like wildfire. It was not surprising that Chen Xinyi and her friends knew about it. Yun Jian raised a brow and turned to see Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen looking at her with anticipation. She smiled and said, "Entering the elite class means there's a chance to join the hunting school as Country Z's special forces." Yun Jian then narrowed her eyes and added, "I have to go to the hunting school." "Hunting school? What the hell is that place?" Lu Shan asked with a sullen face after hearing that. It was the kind of careless words. Just as Lu Shan finished her question, the people around them turned to look at Yun Jian in confusion. "Hunting school? Hunting? A school to catch wild animals? Why was there such a school? What kind of school was this? Why did Yun Jian have to go? To learn how to catch wild animals?" Everyone present was slightly stunned. "Master, is the hunting school you're talking about located in South America? Is it the world-famous Special Forces training base? It said that the elimination rate is as high as 80% and the death rate is extremely high. It's known as the true Special Forces Devil Training." "Master, are you talking about that school?" Zhang Xiaofeng was stunned for a moment before asking Yun Jian. Just as Zhang Xiaofeng finished his question, everyone present was stunned. Most of the people present were dutiful residents. They often talked about their children's academic results, who had a higher salary, or who married into a good family. They thought that the hunting school Yun Jian mentioned was just an ordinary school. However, no one would have thought that the hunting school Yun Jian mentioned was actually the Special Forces training base. And the death rate was extremely high. Just as they were shocked, they heard Yun Jian admit, "Yeah." This meant that the hunting school Yun Jian had to go to was the Special Forces training base with an extremely high death rate. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Lu Shan and Ning Xing originally thought that Yun Jian applied for the military school to become a policewoman. However, no one would have thought that Yun Jian she actually wanted to go to such a dangerous place to train. Chapter 1395. Special Forces Training Base. The elimination rate is as high as 80%. The death rate is extremely high. You'll die. Are you kidding me? You're going to a place like that? You're a girl. Lu Shan could not help exclaiming again when she heard what Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Jian said. You're going to a place like that? What if you die? What if you die? Ning Xing couldn't help but cry out in alarm. When he mentioned death, Ning Xing's body trembled. He was obviously frightened. Xiao Jian, you're going to a place like that? Will you really die? It's such a dangerous place. Mom won't let you go. The people around them exclaimed, but they calmed down quickly. Qin Yiru was different. Yun Jian was her daughter. Therefore, when Qin Yiru heard Yun Jian say that she was going to such a dangerous place, she stood up from the bench right away. Die? I'd really like to meet the person who can kill me in this world. Yun Jian chuckled softly. Her words were quite arrogant, and there was a sense of arrogance in them. In spite of it, others thought that Yun Jian was extremely foolish. Pfft! Lu Shan laughed out loud. She could not hold it in as she laughed out loud when she heard Yun Jian's arrogant words. After that, Lu Shan's lips twitched before she forced herself to hold back her laughter. Forgetting herself, she told Yun Jian again. Do you think you're a god? Do you really think you're in heaven? Ha ha ha, you'd really like to meet the person who can kill you in this world. Pfft! You're kidding me. Qin Yiru was already worried about her daughter. Now that she heard what Lu Shan said, she was even more worried. Xiao Jian. You can't go. How can there be a guarantee? Qin Yiru was genuinely worried and scared. The proudest thing in her life was having a daughter and a son. Both of them were equally important. Therefore, to Qin Yiru, nothing was more important than the safety of her daughter and son. Mom, I've never done anything stupid that would cost my life, and I've never boasted about myself. Yun Jian said to Qin Yiru solemnly, the existence that can threaten me has not been born yet. With me here, Xiao Jian will be fine no matter where she goes. Ci's words rang out just as Yun Jian was explaining to Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru was stunned. Just as she was about to refute Ce, she heard Ce continue. It's just a hunting school. I guarantee that if Xiao Jian really loses a strand of hair in the school, I'll blow it up. Moreover, if anything happens to Xiao Jian, I'll be there to shield her. Even if someone dies, I'll be the first to die. Ce told Qin Yiru with a serious look at Yun Jian. What he said was from the bottom of his heart, and everyone present could hear it. Ce's words touched Qin Yiru. She was right to find this son-in-law. Lu Shan, on the other hand, was displeased. After she heard what Ce said, she retorted at Ce, Pfft, blow it up. Do you think you're an armed force? Playing with gunpowder? Ha! Before Lu Shan could finish, Ce had already dialed Shui Ying's number and spoke to the latter right in front of everyone. I'm sorry. Find the shortest and fattest lady who works in the same shop as my mother-in-law in Country Z, send a fighter jet to bomb her. Everyone was dumbfounded when Ce finished. What? 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 Chapter 1396. Lu Shan thought that Ce was just joking. She did not expect that. Ce was telling the truth. And Ce said it so openly. She was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop. Women love to be beautiful, regardless of their age. Lu Shan was the same. Therefore, when she heard Ce say that she was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop, Lu Shan was stunned. When Lu Shan came back to her senses, the first thing that came to her mind was not that Ce wanted to bomb her house, but Ce actually said that she was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop. Lu Shan was stunned. She was so shocked that she couldn't even speak. The rest of them were the first to react to what Ce said. Young man, don't tell me you're serious. Wen Min was shocked because Ce did not seem to be lying when he spoke. Ae, child, don't mess around. Qin Yiru had heard about Ce's family background from Dong Wan and knew that Ce came from an extraordinary family. Therefore, Qin Yiru knew that Ce was telling the truth. When Lu Shan recovered from her anger, she still did not believe Ce. She even lectured Qin Yiru. "Oh Yiru, is this the kind of son-in-law you want? Bombing with fighter jets? Ha ha ha, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't know anything?" As Lu Shan spoke, Ci's phone rang again. In spite of it, Ci pressed the answer button. Snow Eagle's voice came from the other end. "Young master, the fighter jets haven't arrived yet. I've locked onto the target floor with missiles. Should we bomb it across the sea?" And Han Group's influence was comparable to a country. This wasn't nonsense. As soon as he said that, everyone present was dumbfounded. The other party actually called CE, young master. It felt like it was real. No, this is real. Lu Shan was completely stunned. She stared blankly at CE, feeling as though she was in a complete daze. "AE, don't!" Qin Yiru cried out in alarm. In the past, they could still use their own power to cover up small conflicts. However, if CE really ordered the Snow Eagle to launch a missile attack on Lu Shan's family, this was no laughing matter. It involved the country. Lu Shan was really frightened. She looked at CE in a daze. She was really afraid that CE was telling the truth. The next second, Lu Shan opened her mouth and begged for mercy. Don't. I was wrong. My mouth is cheap." Regardless of whether it was true or not, Lu Shan couldn't bear the blow of this possibility. "There's no need to launch the missiles. Let's retreat," Yun Jian said to Shuang, who was on the other end of Ci's phone. "Yes." Shuang agreed to Yun Jian faster than he agreed to Ce. As soon as he finished, he hung up on Ce. How dare Shuang hang up on Ce when the young mistress had spoken? In the past, Shuang would not have dared to do this even if he was given 100 guts. Lu Shan did not know why, but when she heard the word retreat, she felt like she had escaped death even though she did not believe that Ce would launch a missile attack on her house. Lu Shan sat in her seat and heaved a sigh of relief. Ce had never objected to Yun Jian's decisions, so the matter passed just like that. When Chen Sini and the others arrived, Yun Jian told Qin Yiru that she wanted to go shopping with Chen Sini and the others after a few bites. Ce followed Yun Jian and even held Yun Jian's small hand with his large palm. Chapter 1397. Ce had left what he was doing and ran back to Longmen City. The reason was simple. Yun Jian had asked Mad Dragon instead of him to go to the Amazon forest. Ce had gone to the Kosha mercenaries to reprimand Mad Dragon before coming here to look for Yun Jian to declare his sovereignty. Yun Jian had to wait for Muing here before heading to the Amazon forest. She had to make stops along the way with Muing. Ce was currently at his busiest and could not spare any time, so he returned to An Hun Group after coming to look for Yun Jian before heading to the Amazon forest to meet Yun Jian. Ce had even brought his and Yun Jian's booklet with him after he left. Country R's marriage certificate was a huge booklet, different from the small booklet in Country Z. However, Ce brought it with him at all times. Yun Jian face-bombed. Ce had been itching to let everyone in the world know that they were married recently. He would even show off their marriage certificate in Country R from time to time. He was so happy that he did not feel tired at all. If Adam heard about this, he would probably grumble on the spot. "How did you become such a young master?" Ce left in a private helicopter that day while Yun Jian waited for Muing in Longmen City the next day. However, Muing had Lang Hanja following behind her. Lang Hanja insisted on coming after Muing. There was no way to shake him off. Yun Jian was not too surprised to see Lang Hanja. Not only did Lang Hanja come alone, he brought a friend with him. Lang Hanja did not expect his friend to bring a few friends along as well. As they went back and forth, they seemed to have formed a team. Yun Jian was not too happy about it. She was already annoyed that Lang Hanja had tagged along and now he had brought a friend with him. His friend had brought a group of people as well. This is my friend, Guo Xiao. He also graduated from our military academy. He was our senior last year. He is now studying at the police academy. He will be a police officer in the future. Lang Hanja introduced Guo Xiao to everyone. Yun Jian blinked, uninterested. Mu Ying crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking equally upset. Go back. Don't follow me and Yun Jian anymore. After Lang Hanja introduced everyone on his side to Yun Jian and Mu Ying said to him coldly. It was obvious that Mu Ying did not want Lang Hanja to tag along as well. What's wrong with you? Brother Hanja deliberately followed you to protect you. It's been so many years. It's no secret that Brother Hanja likes you. But what about you? Why are you? Before she could finish, Lang Hanja interrupted, Lang Lingling, if you don't want to come with us, then go back yourself. Lang Hanja said coldly. When the girl called Lang Lingling heard Lang Hanja's words, she snorted angrily and purposely raised her voice. Lang Lingling was Lang Hanja's younger sister. She tagged along because she liked Lang Hanja's friend, Guo Xiao. All of you, shut up. Yun Jian suddenly scolded just as the group was talking noisily. Everyone stopped what they were doing and talking when they heard Yun Jian scolding. However, Yun Jian continued with a tone that made it impossible for anyone to underestimate her. It's your business whether or not you want to follow us and go to the Amazon forest. However, if anything happens to any of you, I'll only remind you that Mu Ying and I will only watch from the sidelines. So, do as you please. Chapter 1398. Yun Jian made it clear. She would not stop them if they wanted to tag along. She did not have the right to stop them. After all, they were her legs. However, Yun Jian was not responsible for their safety. They had never experienced how dangerous the Amazon forest was. However, Yun Jian, who had survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months in her previous life, knew that it was not a place for humans. Even Yun Jian barely survived in the Amazon forest. It did not matter if it was the wild animals or the swamp that they encountered during their military training on the uninhabited island. The Amazon forest could not be compared to the small waves on the uninhabited island. What do you mean by that? F***ck, don't make it sound like the earth would stop spinning without you, alright? Seriously. There are more and more people who think highly of themselves. They don't even know what they're thinking. Lang Lingling was taken aback by Yun Jian's reprimand. She was stunned for a moment before she spoke up after recovering from the shock. After saying that, Lang Lingling turned her head to look at Guo Xiao, whom she admired. Brother Xiao, am I right? Before Lang Lingling could hear Guo Xiao's reply, Lang Hanja yelled at Lang Lingling again, Lang Lingling. If you continue to mess around, you can go home right now. This was the second time Lang Hanja, as Lang Lingling's brother, had spoken to her in such a loud tone. Lang Lingling was furious. Let's go. Yun Jian ignored Lang Lingling. She spoke to Mu Ying and left first. Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, and the rest followed Yun Jian and Mu Ying from the car to the plane to Country G. In other words, Lang Hanja and Lang Lingling did not know the way and followed Yun Jian. The Amazon forest was also known as the Amazon rainforest. It was located in the Amazon basin in South America. The rainforest spanned across 8 countries and took up 20% of the world's forest area. It was the largest rainforest in the world with the most species. Yun Jian would usually depart from Country G when she went to the Amazon forest, because Country G had helicopters that could directly reach the entrance of the Amazon forest. The other 8 countries were all around the Amazon forest, but Yun Jian was more used to setting off from Country G. Lang Hanja and the others followed them all the way until they arrived at the place where they took the helicopter to the Amazon forest in Country G. Public security in country G was generally good, but there was no lack of places with poor public security. The helicopter that goes directly to the Amazon forest is rented from the local people, and the number of helicopters here is relatively small, so usually there is a queue for a helicopter. At this moment, Yun Jian and Muing were waiting in line, followed by Lang Hanja and a group of people. It's so hot. It's almost our turn. Is the plane here yet? Lang Lingling fanned her face and asked lazily. Bear with it. It's coming, it's coming. They're finally here. A guy in the same group responded. They saw a helicopter being pulled over by a large truck from afar. Hey, you guys wait for 2 more hours. The pilot of this helicopter got into an argument with armed people and was shot twice. He's been sent to the hospital, and the next helicopter will arrive in 2 more hours. Just then, a staff member walked over and waved at Yun Jian and the others, speaking in Chinese. The staff member was from country Z, huh? 2 more hours. Lang Lingling was dumbfounded when she heard that. Is this helicopter empty? No one's piloting it? Yun Jian asked. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the staff member paused for a moment, then smiled naturally, yes. Then, the staff member joked with Yun Jian, little girl, do you want to drive the helicopter to the Amazon forest yourself? Ha! It was impossible. The staff member didn't finish his sentence. Give me the helicopter, I'll rent it. Yun Jian took out a card from her pocket and threw it to the staff member, then walked towards the helicopter. What's wrong with you? The pilot isn't here and you still want to rent the helicopter. Do you even know how to drive it? Lang Lingling, who was standing behind, couldn't help but scold Yun Jian. Hey, little girl. You can't just drive the helicopter if you don't know how to drive it. Also, do you know the coordinates of the Amazon forest? The staff member reacted and wanted to chase after Yun Jian, who had already walked to the helicopter. However, he saw Yun Jian walk to the side of the helicopter and jump onto the helicopter door. Under the gaze of the surrounding people, she walked to the cockpit and started the helicopter within 3 seconds. The helicopter instantly flapped its wings and floated up, making a loud noise. Yun Jian walked to the helicopter door under everyone's horrified gaze and put down the rope. She called out to Muing, come up. She really knew how to drive a helicopter. This teenage girl really knew how to drive a helicopter. Chapter 1399. Muing went over and grabbed the rope that Yun Jian had let down from the helicopter in a few steps. Grabbing the rope nimbly, she climbed up to the side door of the helicopter from the ground. No matter how much the staff tried to dissuade and disbelieve that Yun Jian knew how to fly a helicopter, Yun Jian's actions just now and the fact that she actually knew how to fly a helicopter had completely shocked the staff. After Muing jumped onto the helicopter with the rope, she stood at the side door of the helicopter and looked down at Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, Guo Xiao, and the others. In the end, Muing locked her gaze on Lang Hanja. The helicopter was already 3 meters above the ground. Unless Yun Jian or Muing let down the rope and Lang Hanja and the others could climb onto the helicopter, Lang Hanja and the others could only get onto the helicopter. However, when the helicopter was 3 meters above the ground, it was obvious that Yun Jian did not intend to travel with Lang Hanja and the others. Hey! Alright, we know that you can fly a helicopter. Why aren't you lowering the helicopter? Quick! It's so hot that I'm about to peel off my skin. It's so hot, hurry up and let us sit on it. Lang Lingling was stunned, but she did not think too much about it. Instead, she waved at Yun Jian and asked Yun Jian to lower the helicopter so that they could sit on it. Let's part ways here. Yun Jian gave a simple reply. Yun Jian did not say anything else. Lang Lingling was taken aback by Yun Jian's words before she broke out in a torrent of abuse. Lang Lingling began to yell at Yun Jian. Muing stared at Leng Hanja. She pursed her lips and said, I'm no longer the same person as before. I'm no longer the Muing of the past. I've told you this more than once. Now, I'm telling you the same thing. Don't come to me again. We're not from the same world. Muing had told Leng Hanja more than once that they were not from the same world. She told him not to come looking for her anymore. However, every time she said that, Leng Hanja would, how are we not from the same world? Ying, there's nothing in this world that can stop us from being together. I won't give up. I won't give up. Leng Hanja was still yelling at the sky, refusing to admit defeat, even when Yunjian flew the helicopter dozens of meters away. Muing had rejected Leng Hanja's feelings for her more than once. She knew that Leng Hanja had feelings for her, but she was not the real Muing. She could not merge herself with the real Muing like Yunjian. However, no matter what Muing did, she could not get rid of Leng Hanja. This made Muing feel guilty. Yunjian and Muing arrived at the border of the Amazon forest. The helicopter could enter the Amazon forest, but it was rented. Yunjian did not plan to fly the helicopter directly into the Amazon forest. The helicopter stopped at the entrance. It was surrounded by the forest. The reason why it was called the entrance was because there were people stationed here. The staff who were in charge of the helicopter's navigation were also here. If they registered at the scenic spot, they could even have a tour guide to bring them around the Amazon forest. Of course, the tour guide would only bring them to a safe area. It was impossible for them to go deep into the Amazon forest. When Yunjian returned the helicopter to the staff was shocked. Why was their helicopter driven by a young lady? By the time they reacted, Yunjian was already far away. Yunjian had just walked to Muing and was about to pack her things with Muing to enter the Amazon forest when a clear male voice came from behind. The male voice stopped Yunjian and Muing in time. Chapter 1400. We're not going with a group. Yunjian immediately denied the guy's words. She didn't even look at the guy's face before she spoke. Hearing Yunjian's simple words, the guy was stunned, but he didn't give up. Instead, he walked to Yunjian and Muing. Then, he looked at Yunjian and Muing. The guy spoke again as if he was trying to persuade Yunjian and Muing to agree with him. It's not good for the two of you to enter the Amazon forest by yourselves. The Amazon forest isn't an ordinary forest. There are ferocious beasts inside. You might get into trouble if you go by yourselves. I heard that a group of people went in 2 days ago and they haven't come out yet. It's dangerous for the two of you to enter the Amazon forest without a group. Why don't you come with us? You can take care of each other. Also, we're all from country Z, hee. It's rare to meet people from the same country here. The guy said a lot of things, but all he got was Yunjian's rejection. I'm not going. Renzongwei, can you do it? You can't even persuade two girls. You don't even have that bit of charm. What are you doing? Another guy's voice came from the side. The other guy said as he walked towards Yunjian and Muing. Ladies, I'm Dan Qingjie. We're planning to enter the Amazon forest as a group. Renzongwei told you guys just now that we're short of 3 people. There are 6 of our country Z compatriots in the group. Do you guys want to come along? The guy who called himself Dan Qingjie was a handsome young guy. He was about 19 years old and looked very bright and handsome. It was not hard to tell that Dan Qingjie and his group were university students who came to the Amazon forest to play. Also, one could tell that Dan Qingjie and his group were wearing branded clothes from head to toe. Even the watches on their hands were worth more than 5,000. 5,000 was considered extremely expensive in terms of the price of watches in 1999. Just by looking at Dan Qingjie's group, it was not hard to tell that they were all university students. Usually, if a university student could come to a place like the Amazon forest to play, they would need to have a rich family to do so. But these were not in Yunjian's consideration. After Dan Qingjie told Ren Zhongwei that Yunjian and Muing were going to the Amazon alone and that it was quite dangerous, Yunjian started to pack her bag. She ignored Dan Qingjie and took out a butterfly knife, 2 daggers, and many blades from her bag. After making sure that these things could be used normally, she put them in her bag. Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie were just talking about Yunjian and Muing going into the Amazon forest by themselves. It was very dangerous for the 2 girls, so they advised them to team up with them. However, when they saw Yunjian take out a few knives from her bag, Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie both took a deep breath and swallowed their saliva. You're a girl. How can you bring so many dangerous things? Dan Qingjie was stunned. At that moment, Yunjian had picked up her bag again and asked Muing to follow her to the entrance of the Amazon forest. She completely ignored Dan Qingjie and Ren Zhongwei's reaction. Yunjian and Muing were just about to walk to the entrance of the Amazon forest when Yunjian suddenly saw the tour guide's introduction in Country G's language. Yunjian frowned slightly when she saw the introduction of the tour group. She suddenly pulled Muing and turned around to say to Dan Qingjie and Ren Zhongwei, "We'll join your group." Chapter 1401. After Yunjian finished speaking, Dan Qingjie and Ren Zhongwei both looked up at her and said in unison, "Really? You guys are really willing to join us?" Yunjian's previous attitude was really too cold, so it gave Dan Qingjie and Ren Zhongwei an inexplicable illusion that Yunjian would not join them. So when they heard Yunjian's words, Dan Qingjie and Ren Zhongwei felt like they had misheard. "Lead the way." At this moment, Yunjian nodded and said. Muing did not understand why Yunjian wanted to follow the tour group halfway. After all, following a tour group was very time-consuming and inconvenient for them. But Muing did not ask Yunjian. Just as they joined Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie's group, Yunjian and Muing saw the other 4 people from Z country other than Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie. Among the 4 people from Z country, 3 of them came with Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie. As for the other more mature woman, she came alone. She also just joined the tour group and met Dan Qingjie and the others. When this more mature woman saw Yunjian and Muing, she greeted Yunjian and Muing first. "More friends here. Hey, I'm He Liqing. You can call me Sister Qingqing. Don't be shy." The mature woman who called herself He Liqing was obviously a beautiful and gentle big sister, but there was also the air of a mature sister in her gentleness. At least Yunjian had a good impression of this woman called He Liqing. "I'm Muing." Muing replied briefly to He Liqing. Yunjian's self-introduction was even more brief. "Welcome to the group, little girls." An 18 or 19-year-old college girl who was with Dan Qingjie and the others greeted Yunjian and Muing. This girl had heavy makeup on and looked very beautiful. When she greeted Yunjian and Muing, she did not show any signs of unwelcome. But if you asked her how much she welcomed Yunjian and Muing, she did not show any extreme reaction. It could be seen that she welcomed them on the surface, but in her heart, she did not feel like they were dispensable. This girl was called Lu Yun. In the group of Z country people, other than He Liqing and Lu Yun who were girls, Yunjian and Muing were the rest of them were guys. In the end, the numbers were gathered quickly and the group prepared to leave. Yunjian asked Ce to bring Mad Dragon, and she and Muing would catch up in about a day. Ce had already sent Mad Dragon home, but Yunjian asked Ce to bring Mad Dragon. Since Ce listened to Yunjian, no matter how jealous she was, she had to satisfy her first. Just as they entered the Amazon forest, the surrounding scenery was like a fairy tale. It was extremely beautiful. In the group, there were a few people who came with cameras, so they took pictures along the way and walked rather slowly. Wow! There's a river here, and the water is so big, so wide, and so clear. At this moment, a foreigner exclaimed in English. There were fish swimming in the river, so a few foreigners had already rolled up their sleeves excitedly, took off their shoes, and entered the water to catch fish. Let's go and have some fun too. Lu Yun was very excited as she took off her shoes and ran into the river. She stepped on the shallow sand in the river and made a yay expression to one of the guys who brought a camera. The river was very wide and the current was relatively fast. Lu Yun stood in the river and made a pose for the guy with the camera to take pictures of her. With this careless step, Lu Yun's foot was suddenly scratched by a stone. Just as she was about to raise her foot to see what was going on, she heard Yun Jian's voice from afar. There are piranhas in this river, you have to go ashore immediately. Yun Jian's words made Lu Yun frown, but Lu Yun was the kind of girl who would not show her displeasure on the surface. To put it bluntly, she cared a lot about her image. Even if she really did not like someone, Lu Yun would not show it on her face. Instead, she would treat people coldly. Yun Jian spoke in English, so everyone present heard it clearly. Where are the piranhas? I still want to take pictures. Lu Yun frowned, and her voice became cold. However, she did not say anything to Yun Jian that showed her displeasure. A few of the foreigners around heard Yun Jian's words and went ashore. Although Lu Yun did not talk back to Yun Jian loudly, she was very indifferent to Yun Jian. When the foreigners heard Yun Jian's words just now, they were also skeptical. Because even the tour guide said that piranhas should not appear in this place, but they did not rule out the possibility. However, at this moment, Lu Yun suddenly screamed, "Aw!" In the next second, everyone saw a fish that was about 30 centimeters long open its mouth and use its sharp teeth to grab Lu Yun's leg. It was like a surgeon's scalpel crazily biting and cutting. After biting the flesh on Lu Yun's leg, it did not let go. With its body twisting, it actually bit off a piece of flesh on Lu Yun's leg in front of everyone. Chapter 1402. Any smell of blood will trigger a large group of piranhas to attack violently. You still have 3 seconds to go ashore. After 3 seconds, even the gods won't be able to save you. Yun Jian said calmly as she looked at Lu Yun's leg that was bitten off by the piranhas. Piranhas usually attacked in groups. There was once a child who accidentally fell into a pond where piranhas were rearing. Within a few minutes, he was gnawed alive and turned into a horrifying skeleton. This was not nonsense. It was an ironclad fact. Ah! No! No! Lu Yun, who was bitten on her leg, was so scared that she didn't even care about the pain on her leg. She immediately jumped ashore. This piranha that bit her leg didn't want to let go. In the end, Lu Yun desperately shook her leg a few times before it let go. Lu Yun herself didn't see it. The second after she jumped ashore, everyone on the shore saw the piranhas behind her as if they were injected with chicken blood. They rushed towards her without any regard for their lives. Some of them even bit Lu Yun's skirt. They directly bit Lu Yun's skirt. Ah! Ah! Will they come ashore? Someone was so scared that he screamed and wanted to run away. Ah! It hurts. Lu Yun also sat on the ground and couldn't move. Waves of pain came from her leg. A piece of the flesh on her leg that was bitten by the piranhas had already fallen off. Just looking at it was terrifying, let alone actually experiencing it. Am I going to die? Lu Yun hugged her legs and started wailing. Everyone shut up. Just as the people on the scene were extremely noisy, each and every one of them was scared out of their wits. Some of them even wanted to go back the way they came and didn't want to continue this trip. Yun Jian yelled at everyone to stop. Even Lu Yun was trying her best to endure the pain. She was so scared that she quieted down. Just now, it was Yun Jian who said that there were piranhas in the river. Moreover, Yun Jian said that, but the group of people around didn't believe her. Yun Jian, how did you know that there's food in the river, piranhas? Dan Qingjie was so scared that he started to stutter. Yun Jian did not answer Dan Qingjie's question directly. She glanced at everyone around them and spoke in English that everyone present could understand coldly. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. If you want to survive in the Amazon forest, remember 3 things: don't touch anything, don't run around, and don't move around. If you can't even do these 3 things, then I can tell you very clearly that you only have 2 choices now. Leave this place or die. Yun Jian's gaze was as sharp as a knife. Every word that came out of her mouth was shocking. Even the tour guide who was leading the way was intimidated by Yun Jian's icy demeanor. Didn't you say that with someone guiding you, it's very safe to play in the Amazon forest? A burly man stepped forward and asked. This burly man was a foreigner, and he spoke in English. Ha! Yun Jian suddenly chuckled. In the next second, her gaze turned sharp and she reached into her bag. She didn't even look and accurately took out a knife from her bag. With a fling of her arm, the blade in her hand was flung at the bulky man. Ah, you! The burly man was shocked. However, before the burly man could react, the knife in Yun Jian's hand had already flown past him. That's... Just then, someone suddenly realized that behind the burly man, a cobra was nailed to a tree by Yun Jian's knife. This person was so scared that he screamed. Everyone turned around and saw this scene. This meant that the cobra was hanging behind the burly man. If it wasn't for Yun Jian's timely action, then this burly man would have. While everyone was shocked by Yun Jian's skills, they couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. However, they heard Yun Jian laugh coldly at the burly man. You can't even protect yourself, who else can you rely on? As she spoke, Yun Jian stood in front of everyone. She suddenly took out a bunch of knives from her bag and threw them on the ground. Then, she announced to everyone. Chapter 1403. The meaning of Yun Jian's words was that she would not team up with trash. The trash she referred to everyone present. In other words, although she had joined this tour group, she would not team up with anyone in the tour group. To put it bluntly, if the people present wanted to live, they had to do it themselves. Otherwise, even if someone died in front of her, she would not do it again. You! How can you be like this? Everyone came in with the tour group. How can you do something like watching someone die? Are you people all so uneducated? A blonde foreign woman pointed at Yun Jian in fluent English because she was afraid. As soon as the blonde foreign woman's voice fell, Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at her. Her eyes emitted a sharp and eye-catching luster, coupled with the skill Yun Jian had just shown in front of everyone. The blonde foreign woman trembled and took a few steps back. Just when the blonde foreign woman was frightened by Yun Jian's frightening eyes and took a big step back, Yun Jian suddenly took a step forward. She stretched out her white slender hand and grabbed the blonde foreign woman's collar. She actually dragged the blonde foreign woman's figure to the spacious river where the piranhas gathered. The blonde foreign woman was directly suppressed by Yun Jian in 3 seconds. As long as Yun Jian gently let go, the blonde foreign woman would fall into the river and become a meal for the piranhas. The blonde foreign woman immediately realized that her collar was being pulled by Yun Jian. Her body was tilted. As long as Yun Jian let go, she would become a meal for the piranhas below. Just now, Lu Yun was bitten by a piranha and a piece of meat was bitten off. Now there are hundreds of piranhas in the river. If Yun Jian let go, no. Let me go. The blonde foreign woman was scared. She began to struggle to escape from Yun Jian's grasp. However, Yun Jian's strength was so great that the blonde foreign woman had no room to break free. For the first time, the blonde foreign woman felt terrified and regretted what she had just said. At this time, Yunjian's soft words reached the blonde foreign woman's ears. At the same time, everyone present was shocked. So you can choose not to listen to me. Don't worry, I'll let you experience what it's like to be uneducated. With that, Yunjian loosened her grip. The blonde foreign woman was suppressed by Yunjian, and the back of her head and back faced the hundreds of piranhas in the river. The blonde foreign woman could not loosen her grip on Yunjian. If Yunjian were to loosen her grip, the blonde foreign woman would end up in the mouths of the thousands of piranhas. This made the blonde foreign woman feel as if her scalp was numb and she was frightened. Yunjian suddenly said this. Before the blonde foreign woman could react, Yunjian had already let go of her hand. The blonde foreign woman immediately fell into the river with her back facing downwards. Ah! I don't want to die. Ah! At the same time, the blonde foreign woman screamed. She was scared out of her wits and didn't even know how to react. Just when the blonde foreign woman fell 10 centimeters into the river, Yunjian suddenly reached out and grabbed the blonde foreign woman's collar again, preventing her from falling into the river. The piranhas in the river began to leap and jump, wanting to hunt the blonde foreign woman, a huge delicacy. Some of the fish even bit the blonde foreign woman's loose trousers and tore off her trousers and clothes in a few bites. Everyone present was frightened. They couldn't imagine how miserable the blonde foreign woman's fate would be if Yunjian loosened her grip. At this time, Yunjian's faint voice sounded in a trance. She sneered and said to the blonde foreign woman, "I can kill people easily. What's the point of not saving a life?" As soon as these words came out, coupled with Yunjian's actions at the moment, the surrounding people were horrified. She really dared. Chapter 1404. Yunjian's words stimulated the hearts of everyone present, especially Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie, who invited Yunjian to join their group. Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie both thought that Yunjian was just an ordinary girl, so when Yunjian and Muing wanted to go to the Amazon forest alone, they came to invite them. That was because Yunjian and Muing were two girls, and under the circumstances where it was dangerous for them to go alone, the possibility of them joining the group was higher. Later on, Yunjian and Muing really joined their tour group, which made Ren Zhongwei and Dan Qingjie even more certain that Yunjian and Muing were just weak girls. But Yunjian's performance just now was not weak at all. That strange skill, that amazing observation. If it wasn't for Yunjian, whether it was Lu Yun or the foreign man, they would not be able to escape death. Just when the blonde foreign woman was scared out of her wits, Yunjian directly pulled her up from the river, and then stretched out her leg to kick the blonde foreign woman away. The blonde foreign woman was already scared out of her wits. After being thrown to the ground by Yunjian, the foreigners who were with her immediately came forward to help her up. Yunjian turned around. After she scared the blonde foreign woman, she walked over and picked up the blades that she had spread out on the ground. A piece of flesh on Lu Yun's leg was bitten off by the piranhas. Among the few people in the tour group, there was a medical staff. This medical staff anesthetized Lu Yun's leg, and Lu Yun temporarily did not feel pain. Yunjian picked up the blades on the ground one by one, and then in front of everyone, hid the blades one by one in every corner of her body. These blades were hidden by Yunjian in her hair, clothes, and everywhere she hid, the blades completely disappeared without a trace. Yunjian, on the other hand, was the same as when she first arrived. There was no trace of a hidden weapon on her. Yunjian simply threw away her bag, and then hid the butterfly knife, 2 daggers, and the blades in the bag to her side. This bag was not given to her by Qin Yiru, so Yunjian did not feel the slightest bit of reluctance to throw away this bag. This. Who the hell are you? How can you hide weapons on your body without anyone noticing? Dan Qingjie was very surprised. He saw Yunjian hide so many weapons on her body. But strangely, after Yunjian hid so many blades and weapons on her body, it was as if these things were not hidden by her at all, and no one could see any traces of hidden weapons on her body. After being reminded by Dan Qingjie, the surrounding people all realized this point and were a little surprised. Just as Yun Jian was about to hide the last 3 blades on her body, He Liqing suddenly reached out and took the 3 blades from Yun Jian's hands. Then, He Liqing stood up and looked at Yun Jian, with a hint of determination in her eyes. She said, "Yun Jian, I've decided, I'm not going to be a useless person. I'll walk out of the Amazon forest with my own strength. This trip will not be in vain." He Liqing was a very mature woman. From the beginning Yun Jian felt that she was like a big sister. Yun Jian had a good impression of He Liqing. He Liqing's words made Yun Jian squint her eyes. She was obviously satisfied with He Liqing's performance. But with He Liqing taking the lead, the 20 people around them were still indifferent. Walking out of the Amazon forest with her own strength, this sentence was easy to say, but if one really chose to do it, normal people would not have the courage to do so. Not long after He Liqing said this, there was another group of people's voices coming from the entrance of the Amazon forest. Obviously, the people following the group were not only Yun Jian's group. Maybe because Yun Jian's group had delayed for a long time, the people following the group had caught up. In spite of it, both Yun Jian and Muing frowned when they saw who was leading the group of people who had followed the group. The people leading the group were Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, and Guo Xiao. Muing did not expect Lang Hanja to really follow her. Yun Jian, on the other hand, raised a brow in disdain. They had actually stalled here for so long. Chapter 1405. When Yun Jian and Muing saw Lang Hanja and the others, Lang Hanja and the others also saw Yun Jian and Muing. The moment they saw Yun Jian and Muing, Lang Hanja and the others rushed over like crazy. Lang Hanja was afraid that Muing would shake him off again, so he rushed over and shouted at Muing, "Ying." When Lang Lingling saw Yun Jian and Muing, her face darkened. She ran over and scolded Yun Jian and Muing. "You actually abandoned us and ran away just now. How shameless. We came here together, and we took care of you along the way, but what happened to you? You actually thought that you could fly a helicopter and left without waiting for us. How can there be such a shameless person in this world? I'm so angry." Lang Lingling's first sentence was directed at Yun Jian and Muing, and the second sentence was directed at Yun Jian. Lang Lingling was still frustrated. Just as she was about to say something else, Dan Qingjie's terrified voice rang. Dan Qingjie's fearful question was asked while looking at Yun Jian, "What's wrong with you? You know how to fly a helicopter? How old are you? You know how to fly a helicopter?" Lang Lingling's casual words caused an uproar among Dan Qingjie's group of people. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked and couldn't react for a moment. Yun Jian knew how to fly a helicopter. That wasn't a car. It was a helicopter. A helicopter pilot had to learn for a few years before he could officially operate a helicopter, let alone fly one. "I'm a pilot. I accidentally saw this girl from Z country flying a helicopter." At this moment, a clean-looking foreign man with a high nose bridge and brown hair spoke in English. Everyone present could speak English, and their English was not bad. So when the foreign man spoke, everyone turned to look at Yun Jian. However, the foreign man who claimed to be a pilot exclaimed, and his tone was full of admiration for Yun Jian. "I've been flying for more than 10 years, and I've seen many old pilots operate a helicopter. Today is the first time I've seen a girl operate a helicopter with such precision. This doesn't seem like something a teenage girl can do. Even my master, Captain Mitterrand, can't fly a helicopter so perfectly like her. She avoided the airflow and operated it smoothly without any turbulence." The foreign man who claimed to be a pilot had already reached the point of admiration for Yun Jian. When the people around them heard the foreign man's words, they were all stunned. Lang Lingling originally wanted to scold Yun Jian, but she didn't know that the people around her admired Yun even more. Pfft, what are you bragging about? Who knows if you're with her and purposely praising her? Lang Lingling glared fiercely at Yun Jian, and just when she was about to refute, Yun Jian suddenly narrowed her eyes, and she felt the slight change in the atmosphere. In the next second, the birds and beasts in the silent forest suddenly screamed and retreated as if they had met their natural enemy. What's wrong? Suddenly feeling the silence around her, and the chirping of the birds and beasts before they left, Lang Lingling was so scared that she trembled violently. Then, she asked in fear. Just as he asked the question, a group of black people jumped out from all directions. These people were wearing clothes made of various animal skins. A few of them were bare-chested, and they held sharp wooden weapons in their hands. They surrounded Yun Jian and the others in the middle. When they saw these people, who jumped out from all directions, the people around them exclaimed. The tour guide even shouted in surprise. Chapter 1406. When the tour guide saw the group of savages suddenly rushing out of the forest, he was obviously shocked. There was one reason for this shock, and that was that this group of savages was actually called the Savages tribe. There wasn't much difference between the savages and ordinary humans, but there was one difference. Although the savages didn't look much different from ordinary humans, their way of life was completely different. The savages in the Savages tribe were used to wearing clothes made of animal fur. Even their weapons were the most primitive bows and long weapons. The Savages tribe had their own language of communication and they were usually as ferocious as beasts. Although the tour guide knew that there was a Savages tribe somewhere in the Amazon forest, he was never worried about encountering savages. That was because the savages in the Savages tribe had their own territories. Other than a few Amazon forests, they would never enter other territories. They were the kings of the Amazon forest. They had their own territory in the Amazon forest. They would never leave their territory to look for food in other places and would never allow outsiders to enter their territory. If anyone trespassed into their territory, they would take the initiative to attack the humans who strayed into their territory. If the savages were so ferocious, why didn't they use modern firearms to subdue them? There was only one explanation for this problem, and that was that in the Amazon forest, these savages were the kings of the jungle. They were familiar with the terrain and knew how to use the terrain to avoid guns. They could even jump around freely like monkeys using the branches and vines of the forest. That was why guns could not hit the savages. Entering the Savages tribe was a huge taboo in the Amazon forest. The tour guide's job was to avoid the risk of entering the Savages tribe and bring the tourists to the Amazon forest. However, the savages who had never left their territory in the Savages tribe suddenly appeared here and surrounded them. It was obvious that they were not friendly. At that moment, even the tour guide did not know why. Gugugu, gugugu. The savages started talking in their own language after they appeared. Yun Jian squinted her eyes and did not move. Lang Lingling, who was scared out of her wits after hearing the tour guide's words, suddenly turned around and screamed, "I don't want to be eaten." She wanted to run but was knocked unconscious by a savage after taking 2 steps. Not long after, the dozens of people present were suppressed by this group of savages. Yun Jian and Muing did not resist. There were a lot of savages and they quickly tied up Yun Jian's group with vines and brought them to the tribe. It was already 3:00 in the afternoon when they were brought to the Savage tribe. Yun Jian and dozens of others were exposed to the sun. The group of savages grabbed their long weapons and rushed to the cave noisily. "What is this place? Will we be eaten?" Lang Lingling screamed as soon as she was put down. With Lang Lingling's shout, the dozens of people around her were immediately frightened. Their faces were extremely pale, and they were all worried about what would happen next. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and looked around. Her heart was slightly touched. This place was still the same as before. Nothing had changed. Just as he was thinking about this, he saw the group of savages surrounding an older savage walking out of the cave. The group of savages were talking in their own language with a g-goo-goo sound. The older savage was obviously the leader of this group of savages. After the barbarian leader walked over, a few of the barbarians carried out a few large pots from the cave. Lang Lingling could not hold it in any more when she saw the pots. She said with tears flowing down her face, They are really going to eat us. I don't want to be eaten, I don't want to, woo-woo. As she screamed, she struggled to break free from the vines but to no avail. The savages surrounded the leader of the savages and surrounded Yunjian's group. At the same time, this group of savages was talking in a language that no one could understand. After a while, the pots were lit on fire. The size of the pots was just right to contain a living person. Seeing this, not only Lang Lingling, everyone screamed. However, the vines were very strong. No one could break free from the vines. The leader of the savages said something and there were already savages walking towards Yunjian's group. Just as those savages were about to reach Yunjian's group, Yunjian suddenly shouted at the leader of the savages. Even if they were going to be eaten, there should be an order. With Yunjian's shout, those savages immediately noticed Yunjian's group. Lang Lingling and a few others were beside Yunjian. Lang Lingling was already so scared that she did not dare to say a word. However, with Yunjian's shout, she successfully attracted the attention of those savages. Are you crazy? If you want to die, don't drag us down. If you want to die, go and die yourself. Lang Lingling cried and shouted at Yunjian. The people around Yunjian instantly hated Yunjian. Thus, they all started to point out Yunjian's faults. However, at this moment, they saw the leader of the savages suddenly stop. Then, he hesitated and actually walked towards Yunjian. An even more shocking scene happened. The leader of the savages took 2 steps towards Yunjian's side. He cried out in shock and then strode towards Yunjian. When he was 3 meters away from Yunjian, he knelt down. The leader of the savages stretched out his hand and knelt down heavily towards Yunjian. The rest of the savages saw their leader kneeling down towards Yunjian and they all followed. In the next moment, all of the savages knelt down towards Yunjian. The scene was shocking and everyone who was with Yunjian was in an uproar. Even the tour guide was dumbfounded when he saw this scene. Others might not know, but as a tour guide, he was very clear. This group of savages had never bowed their heads to any humans. Any humans who accidentally entered their territory were like wanted criminals and would be hunted down by them. Usually, if one was kidnapped by the savages, the chances of survival were pitifully low. This group of savages were the kings of the jungle. They were familiar with the terrain and could use the terrain and years of wilderness survival experience to defeat any strong expert. However, today, they knelt down towards a human. This was a strange thing that the tour guide had never heard of in his entire life. Thus, the tour guide widened his eyes. The rest of the people who were with Yunjian also widened their eyes. They were so shocked that they could not be described with words. Every pair of eyes stared at Yunjian. It was as if they wanted an explanation and wanted to know what was going on. Why are they all kneeling towards Yunjian? This is impossible. She's not their king. Aren't savages only going to listen to the king that they think is the most powerful? Why? Could it be? Could it be that Yunjian is their king? Dan Qingjie was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. Chapter 1407. The world of the barbarians followed the law of survival in the jungle, where the strong ruled. Before entering this place, there was an introduction about the barbarians on the tour group's billboards. The reason why the tour group knew so much about the barbarians was because they had successfully captured a barbarian 3 months ago. Now, this barbarian was brought to a nearby research facility for research and observation. The world of the barbarians did not need the weak, where the strong ruled. A group of barbarians would form a tribe, just like this group of barbarians in the tribe. They would choose the strongest and most powerful barbarian to be the king of their tribe. Normally, the status of this barbarian in their tribe was similar to that of an emperor in ancient times. Unless you could defeat this king and take over the throne, otherwise, the barbarians in the tribe would listen to whatever the king said. This was the law of survival in the barbarians' tribe, where the strong ruled. This was stated on the tour guide's banner at the entrance, so everyone who stood here paid attention to it out of curiosity. But now, this group of barbarians who followed the law of survival actually knelt down in front of Yun Jian under the lead of the barbarian who was obviously the leader of this group of barbarians. What did this mean? Oh my God, these barbarians are kneeling down to us humans. This is a strange story, I have never heard of it before. The barbarians in the tribe are very strict about survival in the jungle, they would never listen to the weak, not to mention kneeling down to a human. The tour guide was stunned, he stared blankly at the scene in front of him which scared him out of his wits. He even regained his senses from the fear of being cooked alive by the barbarians just a moment ago. At this moment, everyone was staring blankly at Yun Jian. They watched as Yun Jian accepted the worship of the barbarians, but she did not show any signs of surprise. However, Yun Jian's expression was normal as she stared at the group of barbarians kneeling down in front of her. Yun Jian, what is going on? He Liqing was holding the 3 blades she took from Yun Jian. She moved closer to Yun Jian and asked. At this moment, everyone present was tied up by vines. Just as He Liqing moved closer to Yun Jian and asked, she saw Yun Jian tear apart the vines binding her body like she was holding a pair of scissors, then stood up. Yun Jian did not answer He Liqing's question, instead, she took 2 steps towards the group of barbarians who were kneeling down in front of her. After Yun Jian let go of the vines binding her, Muing also let go of the vines and stood up. Yun Jian and Muing looked as if they were not tied up by the vines at all. This scene frightened everyone around. Because Yun Jian and Muing were indeed tied up just now. Therefore, the current situation could only be explained by the fact that the vines binding them were not a problem at all. Hey, you guys! Hurry up and untie us. Seeing that Yun Jian and Muing had broken free from the ropes, Leng Lingling felt uncomfortable being tied up by the vines, so she shouted at Yun Jian and Mu Ying's backs in a delicate manner. Leng Lingling had just shouted until here when she saw that Yun Jian did not respond to her. Instead, she strode forward and walked to where the leader of the barbarians was kneeling in front of her. Without saying anything, she walked over and viciously kicked the barbarian leader's abdomen, sending him flying 3 meters away on the spot. That way, it was as if she was punishing her own subordinates. Then, Yun Jian said a few words in the barbarian language in front of everyone. Her tone was rather fierce, scaring the group of barbarians until they started trembling. This scene shocked the crowd once again. Then, she turned around to look at everyone, and finally locked her gaze on the tour guide. Yun Jian, you actually know how to speak in the barbarian language. Who are you? Lang Hangzhou looked at Yun Jian in a daze and asked. Yun Jian, who was asked the crux of the matter, smiled faintly, but said something that shocked everyone present. I've been in the Amazon forest for half a year. If I can't even discipline my own subordinates in half a year, how can I deserve to be called king by them? Subordinates, she was referring to. Chapter 1408. You can say that. Yun Jian said as she walked in front of the tour guide. Standing in front of the tour guide, Yun Jian looked down at the tour guide who was still tied up by the vines. Then she asked the tour guide, where is the research facility? Where is the barbarian that you captured? Although Yun Jian's words were a question, it didn't seem like she was asking a question. Instead, it sounded like she was interrogating the tour guide. The tour guide trembled. Perhaps it was because Yunjian's kick that sent the barbarian leader flying was too ruthless. The tour guide was a little scared. He quickly said, "It's in a building 200 meters away from the entrance of the Amazon forest. There is an Amazon forest wildlife research facility there. The barbarians that were captured earlier were also kept there for tourists to enjoy." The tour guide lost his confidence in the end. If the tour guide didn't guess wrongly, the reason why Yunjian chose to follow the tour group was because she saw the description of the barbarian that was just captured on the tour group at the entrance. The truth was that Yunjian followed the tour group because she saw the description of the barbarian that was captured and kept in the research facility. It was even kept for tourists to enjoy. The barbarian tribe actually owed Yunjian a favor in the past. When she first entered the Amazon forest, Yunjian didn't know anything. Later on, she accidentally entered the barbarian tribe. Because of Yunjian's strength, the barbarians couldn't do anything to her. After following this group of barbarians, Yunjian quickly learned how to survive in a natural environment like the Amazon forest. Later on, Yunjian directly became the queen of the barbarian tribe. She was very clear that if she wanted to be the queen, the least she could do was not allow her subordinates to be bullied. Especially when it was kept for tourists to enjoy. This was something that Yunjian couldn't tolerate. That was why Yunjian joined the tour group to find out more information. As for why the barbarians left their own territory to attack the humans, it was because after the previous barbarian was captured, the barbarians who had a collective consciousness wanted to find their companion that was captured. In fact, because the barbarian was captured by humans, the group of barbarians hated humans. Just now, this group of savages really wanted to cook and eat Yunjian and her group alive. And because Yunjian had changed so much, the group of savages did not recognize Yunjian at all. After all, Yunjian was still very young when she stayed in the Amazon forest for 6 months. Her physical body was still that of her previous life. "Take me to the Wildlife Research Institute now," Yunjian said to the tour guide. As soon as Yunjian spoke, the tour guide looked a little embarrassed. The tour guide was here to lead the way. If he returned to the exit, wouldn't Ren Zhongwei, Dan Qingjie, and the other tourists have to follow him back? It's fine if you don't leave, but you can stay and be their dinner. Yunjian pointed at the savages not far away. Now, no one dared to say that they didn't want to leave. Everyone was fighting to leave. Therefore, the group quickly untied the vines and walked towards the entrance of the Amazon forest. There was still some distance to the entrance of the Amazon forest. Yunjian had too many secrets, so the tour guide couldn't help but ask Yunjian as they walked, "You said you stayed in the Amazon forest for half a year?" "Yeah." Yunjian replied coldly. The tour guide gulped. Before he could ask again, a foreign man who knew Chinese spoke up. "I heard that many assassin and secret agent organizations would throw their assassins or secret agents into the Amazon forest and let them survive for half a year without any weapons. It's a game where the weak are eliminated and the winner is the king. Could it be that you were thrown into the Amazon forest as a secret agent or an assassin?" Chapter 1409. After all, why would a normal girl come all the way to the Amazon forest for half a year? Let's not talk about whether her family would agree or not. A normal girl might not even know what kind of place the Amazon forest was, right? In 1999, the internet was not widely known yet, and there was no way to search for information on the internet. People in that era could only find out about major international news through newspapers, television, and other channels. As for a place like the Amazon forest, even adults might not know about it. Yunjian was from Country Z, and Country Z was far from the Amazon forest, so the foreign man who spoke Chinese had to ask Yunjian about it. The people around them suddenly heard the foreign man saying something they had never heard of before, so they all turned around to look. The foreign man stared at Yun Jian for 2 seconds. It was obvious that this foreign man had some understanding of secret agents and assassins. No comment, Yun Jian's words interrupted the foreign man's train of thought, and he rolled his eyes. Okay, I won't ask anymore. Can I ask for your name? Oh right, before I ask for your name, I'll tell you mine first. My name is Bala, I'm from country G. After the foreign man named Bala introduced himself to Yun Jian, he walked side by side with Yun Jian while looking at Yun Jian. It seemed like he wanted to get her name from Yun Jian. Yun Jian, she said briefly, there was nothing to hide. Oh. Yun Jian, that's a nice Chinese name. Bala praised after hearing it. Yun Jian did not reply after that. On the other hand, Ling Lingling, who was beside Ling Hanja, was very interested when she heard Bala talk about secret agents and assassins. Guo Xiao, who was with Ling Hanja, was a police academy student, so he was very interested in such things as well. Hence, Guo Xiao and Ling Lingling started talking to Bala very quickly. Ling Lingling especially, she had never heard of secret agents and assassins, so she started chatting happily with Bala. Do secret agents and assassins really exist in this world? I always thought that they only existed in movies. Ling Lingling said to Bala longingly. Bala laughed heartily, and then said to Ling Lingling, of course it exists. And it's very likely that it's right next to you. When he said this, Bala seemed to be deep in thought. His gaze even drifted slightly. Really? Ling Lingling shrunk back in fear. She swallowed her saliva and asked Bala cautiously, how did you know all this? I specifically looked into it. Bala said with a smile. Ling Lingling, Guo Xiao, and Bala's laughter could be heard along the way. Yun Jian and Mu Ying, who were walking at the front, remained calm and collected. Lu Yun's leg was bitten by the piranhas. At this moment, because she was anesthetized, she was supported by someone to move forward. For the time being, there was no fatal pain. At this moment, Ling Lingling, who was standing behind Yun Jian, once again asked Bala with an expectant tone, then who is the best secret agent or assassin in this world? Do you know? Hearing Ling Lingling's question, Bala paused for a moment before answering Ling Lingling seriously. At the same time, his tone became solemn. If you ask who is the best secret agent or assassin in this world, it's none other than the #1 secret agent, slaying God. Hearing the 2 words slaying God, even Ling Lingling, who had always ignored Yun Jian, could not help but become more solemn. When the people around them heard the 2 words, they paused in their steps as well. However, Bala's words were heard again. Slaying God, the #1 secret agent on the secret agent ranking, is the best secret agent in this world. She's the only secret agent who has escaped the control of an Hun organization. At the same time, she's also the true king of completing missions with a success rate of 100%. Chapter 14:10. Ling Lingling's tone was cautious when she asked the question, as if she was afraid that she might have asked something she should not have. In Ling Lingling's opinion, Bala must be an outstanding talent to know about such a powerful character. Therefore, Ling Lingling's attitude toward Bala was filled with obvious admiration. Yes, she's definitely the most powerful character on the secret agent and assassin leaderboard. Bala nodded solemnly at Ling Lingling. Oh yeah, who's the Hun organization that you mentioned earlier? Guo Xiao asked, catching on to a detail that Bala had mentioned earlier. Bala patiently explained to Guo Xiao as soon as Guo Xiao opened his mouth to ask. The Hun organization is the world's top assassin organization. Its position is on par with the Kosha mercenaries. If you accidentally offend the Hun organization or the Kosha mercenaries internationally, you'll be hunted down and killed. Even the people on the secret agent or assassin leaderboard are powerless against them. Bala was very patient when it came to secret agents and assassins. It was rare to meet someone who was interested in secret agents and assassins. Bala could not wait to tell Lang Lingling and Guoxiao everything that she knew. Then, does that include the most powerful slaying god that you mentioned earlier? Lang Lingling's tone was filled with admiration when she mentioned slaying god. It was as if she was talking about someone whom she admired the most. Lang Lingling's tone even became cautious. Ever since Bala, Lang Lingling, and Guoxiao mentioned slaying god, Yun Jian's ears kept ringing. Yun Jian listened but did not say a word. However, Bala continued, "No. Slaying god is an exception. I think even if slaying god offended the Enhun organization, they won't be able to take her down. As for the Kosha mercenaries that I mentioned earlier, they're slaying god's own force." Lang Lingling and Guoxiao could not help but gasp when they heard what Bala said. Toward the end, Bala lamented, "I think slaying god's achievements today are all thanks to her innate talent. That's how she got to where she is now so easily. Her talent is really enviable." Bala's lament made Lang Lingling and Guoxiao fall silent. At this moment, Yun Jian suddenly snorted coldly. She secretly laughed and said, "Extraordinary talent. How did he reach his current position so easily?" She was only able to get to where she is today by luck. She was referring to slaying god in his past life, What do you know? You're just an ordinary military schoolgirl. Do you really think that you're slaying god, the top secret agent on the secret agent ranking? You keep talking about it. I think you're just jealous of slaying god's prowess. He's jealous. Yun Jian had just finished speaking when Lang Lingling continued. Yun Jian didn't want to pay attention to this. Yun Jian just took another step forward. At this moment, no one noticed that Bala, who was standing behind Yun Jian, had found the spot closest to Yun Jian. He suddenly clenched his fist and charged toward Yun Jian. His fist was about to land on Yun Jian. No one expected such a turn of events. While everyone was still in shock, they saw Yun Jian, who was walking in front, turn sideways reflexively. She reached out and turned her fist at lightning speed. In the next second, her fist collided with Bala's sneak attack. However, that was not the end. The moment Yun Jian's fist collided with Bala's, her hand snaked nimbly around Bala's wrist like a snake's body. In less than 3 seconds, Yun Jian had grasped Bala's weak spot. With a tug, she pinned Bala's hand down and used the force of her hand to pin Bala to the ground. This turn of events did not take more than 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Before anyone could react, Yun Jian had already subdued Bala, who had ambushed her, and ended the battle. When everyone realized what had happened, they were dumbfounded. No one expected Yun Jian to be so agile. Chapter 14:11. Bala's tone was eerie when he said that. It was completely different from how he looked at slaying god with admiration earlier. Everyone was dumbfounded by the turn of events. Especially when Bala was attacking Yun Jian at a ferocious speed but was subdued by Yun Jian, everyone was dumbfounded. Slaying god. You. The slaying god you're talking about. Is she the one you told us about earlier? Lang Lingling's eyes widened. When the incident happened, Lang Lingling's eyes were wider than anyone else's. She stared at Yun Jian and Bala blankly, asking in disbelief. Isn't she Yun Jian? How could she be? Guoxiao asked in horror. He shook his head and stared at Bala and Yun Jian. He wanted to know the truth. Their instincts told them that the slaying god that Bala mentioned earlier really existed in this world. However, that person was Yun Jian right in front of them. This was something that no one present was willing to believe. However, even if they did not believe it, they were still dumbfounded. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She grabbed Bala, but before she could speak, Bala had already turned his head to the side. Although Yun Jian held his hand, Bala still spoke to Ling Lingling, Guo Ling Hanja, and the rest. How is that possible? How is that not possible? Didn't you see it clearly earlier? She captured me in an instant. I don't know anyone in this world who can capture me in an instant other than slaying God. Bala cackled and continued, I'm the second assassin on the assassin chart, Janice. Since I started my career, I've only met one opponent and that person is slaying God. As he spoke, Bala stretched out his free hand and placed it on his face. He gently tore out a line along the contours of his face. Then, that familiar face was directly peeled off. Ah! Ling Lingling saw Bala tear her face off and she took 2 steps back in fright. What Bala, who was also Janice, did not surprise her. It was obvious that Yun Jian knew that Janice had changed his appearance. She also knew that Janice's face was covered by a human skin mask. However, even if Yun Jian had seen through this, she was not a god and did not know Janice's identity. Yun Jian didn't know until this moment, but she didn't appear to be very surprised. She had wanted to deny her identity as slaying God earlier, but Janice seemed to have known what she was planning to do. Before she could say a word, he had cut off all excuses to deny her identity. Yun Jian's lips curved into a red arc. Yun Jian was no stranger to Janice. Janice, who was ranked second on the assassin ranking, was indeed a powerful character. He was good at tracking and counter-tracking. In her previous life, Yun Jian had encountered Janice before, and it was Janice who came to her and was beaten up by her. Therefore, Yun Jian was not surprised that Janice recognized her. Yun Jian. You. It's impossible. How can you be the slaying god who is ranked first on the assassin ranking? Slaying god should be a great and powerful character. How can it be you? Ling Lingling did not believe it and she would not believe it either. The people around them looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. Everyone thought so. After all, Yun Jian was still young. I'm afraid you're the only one in this world who came to me to be beaten up. Janice, it's been a long time. Yun Jian's lips curved into a red arc. Everyone was shocked and in disbelief when she said that calmly. Especially when she said, long time no see, it could be considered as a direct admission of her identity. Ling Lingling, Guo Ling Hanja, and the rest were dumbfounded. Was she not a student from Min City's military school? Chapter 14:12. Yun Jian ignored the crowd's reaction. After Yun Jian finished her sentence, she released her grip on Janice. At the same time, she extended her leg. Before Janice could react, she kicked Janice's waist in the back, causing him to stumble forward. Janice was not an ordinary person. After being kicked by Yun Jian, he staggered 2 steps forward before regaining his footing. He turned around, wiped the corner of his mouth, and looked at Yun Jian. Slaying God, the number 1 on the international secret agent ranking, is among this group of useless people. I didn't expect that. Tisk. Janice stared back at Yun Jian without backing down as he spoke. Did he just call everyone present a group of useless people? The crowd had just recovered from their shock. After hearing what Janice said, they were all furious. However, no one dared to voice their anger. Janice claimed to be the number 2 assassin on the assassin ranking. An assassin. That was someone who could kill. Moreover, he was the number 2 assassin on the assassin ranking. Tell me what you want. Yun Jian stood calmly on the spot. She narrowed her eyes and looked lazy, but she was more alert than everyone present. Janice was not someone who was easy to control. He was completely different from Mad Dragon and Peter. How could the number 2 assassin on the assassin ranking be a weakling? If he was a weakling, the number 2 assassin ranking would definitely not belong to him. After all, there was a huge difference between the top 3 assassins or secret agents on the assassin ranking and the top 10 assassins or secret agents on the ranking. In other words, anyone who could climb to the top 3 would be an all-powerful and fearsome existence in the entire world who heard of their names. I don't have any other intentions. I just want to ask you for a favor. Janice did not beat around the bush and asked Yunjian directly in front of the stunned crowd. Initially, the crowd thought that since Yunjian was also a powerful character, she would definitely reach an agreement with Janice, who was equally powerful. After all, it was common knowledge to have one more friend and one less enemy. Just when everyone thought that Yunjian would gladly agree to Janice's request and even befriend him, she spoke abruptly, "You're right. You have to know that with your skills, you don't have the right to ask for a favor from me." Yunjian's words were laced with arrogance. The crowd was stunned. However, Janice continued to speak to Yunjian, "TSK. In that case, we'll have to face each other head-on." With that, Janice reached out and took out a Browning pistol from the travel bag that he had been carrying along. Janice held the pistol in his hand and pointed the muzzle at Yunjian. When the crowd saw the Browning pistol, they all became restless. "Gun. It's a gun." "Ah." The one who reacted the most was Lang Lingling. The moment Lang Lingling saw the pistol, she screamed and wanted to run away. Lang Hanja, Guishao, Lu Yun, He Liqing, Dan Qingjie, Ren Zhongwei, and the others wanted to run away. However, they heard Yunjian's voice that was not at a disadvantage. "Do you think you can defeat me with just a gun?" Yunjian's voice was light. However, when she spoke, everyone was shocked. Chapter 14-13. Although Janice's achievements in the underworld were not as good as slaying gods, there was no doubt that Janice was one of the best in the underworld. His achievements were second only to slaying gods. Although his ability was not as good as slaying gods, his achievements in completing missions were close to slaying gods. If slaying God was the king of the underworld, then Janice was undoubtedly the king's best subordinate. There was no one else. Janice's achievements were not something that could be erased by a single person's words. After all, he was not an ordinary assassin, but an elite ranked second on the assassin ranking. However, this was only limited to the ordinary. Who is it? Who is it? How can my achievements be reduced to nothingness just because you say so? Janice circled the forest a few times but could not find the person who had spoken. He frowned and began to be cautious of his surroundings. Other than slaying God, there was someone else who could speak right under his nose and he could not find the person. No matter who this person was, Janice dared not let his guard down. Yunjian's eyes flickered. The mellow voice was just right. It was so magnetic that any woman present could imagine his handsome face just by listening to his voice. There was no doubt that it belonged to him. How did he get here so quickly? Yunjian had initially planned for CE to arrive a day later than her. Yunjian did not know that CE had rushed here so quickly just to see her. But, where was he? Damn it! What's the point of hiding? Come out if you dare. What do you mean by, your woman? Who's your woman? Who the F***ck did I lay my hands on? Jenny's eyes darted around, purposely provoking CE to show himself. In fact, C did not bother to hide himself. In the next second, a person appeared above them. Wasn't that CE? He had been standing on the tree and looking at Janice coldly earlier. However, he had hidden himself so well that Janice could not find him. CE jumped down from the tree handsomely. When he did so, he had a hand in his trouser pocket. His handsome face was presented to the crowd. Especially that head of short hair, it was so black that people couldn't take their eyes off it. Coupled with that handsome face that angered both men and gods, everyone present was captivated. Even Janice felt that something was wrong. His body trembled, and he felt an inexplicable tremble in his body. However, he was the number 2 assassin on the international assassin ranking. The kid in front of him looked to be at most 20 years old. When he came out of the underworld, the other party was still drinking milk in his mother's arms. Thinking of this, Janice became bolder. "Who are you? You don't have the right to speak here, you." Janice's clenched fist was already swinging at CE as he spoke. Seeing this, CE frowned and suddenly spat out, noisy. "You can die now." As soon as he finished his sentence, Janice's fist had already landed in front of CE. Everyone present sucked in a breath of air. No one wanted to see that handsome face get beaten up. Just as they were thinking of this, a pair of fair and slender hands caught Janice's fist easily. At the same time, CE lifted his slender leg and kicked Janice away at lightning speed. His movement was much faster than Yunjian's. Pfft! This kick caused Janice to spit out a mouthful of blood. Janice pointed at CE and said in disbelief, "You. The only person who can be faster than slaying God is dark." The last word ended with CE's foot in the air as he sprinted forward. Bam! CE kicked Janice's abdomen and destroyed his internal organs on the spot. Janice died violently in front of everyone. Everyone who saw this was so shocked that their faces turned pale. Lang Lingling almost fainted from the shock. CE, who was on the other end, did not even take his hands out of his pockets. He glanced at Janice in disgust. "I don't care about your military exploits, but you'll be reduced to nothingness if you dare to lay your hands on my woman." Chapter 14:14. Yunjian gulped. Janice was an unexpected character to begin with. Yunjian did not plan to get rid of him. She even had the thought of roping him into the Kosha mercenaries. After all, if someone like Janice were to join the Kosha mercenaries' forces would definitely double. Ever since the Kosha mercenaries had gotten rid of the subordinates of the previous Kosha mercenaries boss, the old men's forces had been completely eliminated as well. Of course, the consequence of this was that the Kosha mercenaries' forces had yet to be reorganized for quite some time. Therefore, Yunjian's favorite thing to do now was to rope people into her Kosha mercenaries. However, with CE's interference, just as she thought about it, a hand appeared around her waist. CE pulled Yunjian into his arms and pressed himself against Yunjian, his deep voice coming from above. "Xiao Jian, what are you thinking about? Why did you kill him?" Yunjian asked with a frown. CE's expression darkened at the question. "Isn't it better to kill him? I wanted to invite him to join the Kosha mercenaries," Yunjian stated her intention. "Xiao Jian, as long as you serve me well, the entire Enhun group will be yours." "I'll be yours too," CE could not hold himself back and murmured softly against Yunjian's earlobe. Of course, these were all whispers between Yunjian and CE. The people around them could only see CE killing Janice and walking to Yunjian to lean against her. Other than that, they could not see anything else. CE's words made Yunjian blush. She nudged CE quickly and thought of something else. "Where's Mad Dragon?" "Over there." How could he not listen to his wife and bring Mad Dragon over? CE pointed in that direction. Yunjian turned to look and saw Mad Dragon sauntering over lazily. Yunjian could clearly see that Muing, who was standing not far away, froze when she saw Mad Dragon. Muing was still young when she died. She was only about 9 years old. Mad Dragon was still young back then as well. A person's appearance would change with age, but a person's silhouette would not change much. This was why some people could tell whose childhood photo it was at a glance. The moment Muing saw Mad Dragon, she was stupefied. Of a sudden, she realized that she was no longer who she used to be. She did not even have a body. She was only left with a consciousness. This consciousness was transferred to this little girl by the perverted professor back then. Right now, he was like a walking corpse. What right did she have to see him? Lang Hanja could clearly see the change in Mu Ying's expression when she saw Mad Dragon. He felt very uneasy. Ying. Lang Hanja looked at Mu Ying. He wanted to help Mu Ying up, but Mu Ying did not let him touch her and ran into the depths of the forest. Mad Dragon, who was standing far away, felt Mu Ying's gaze. He suddenly retracted his lazy posture. When he glanced at Mu Ying, he felt a sense of familiarity. Yun Jian knew that Mad Dragon and Mu Ying had a relationship when they were in the organization. After Mu Ying died, Mad Dragon killed the group of people who had tricked him into going out. He could not make it back in time to save Mu Ying. To this day, Mad Dragon did not have any women by his side. Not a single one. Ever since Mu Ying died, Mad Dragon's world was only filled with killing, killing, and killing. He only knew how to use killing to numb himself. Yun Jian suddenly walked in front of Mad Dragon. She signaled to Mad Dragon that Mu Ying had run away and said, "Do you still remember MY?" Yun Jian did not point it out, but Mad Dragon suddenly realized something. In the next second, Mad Dragon ran madly towards Mu Ying. Mu Ying ran as fast as she could. Her strength had stagnated at the age of 9. She did not give up on training after her consciousness was sucked into this body by the perverted professor. However, she knew that she was no longer a complete person, and she was not worthy of meeting Mad Dragon. She did not even have her own body. Mu Ying ran faster and faster. In the end, she didn't even notice the vines on the ground. She was tripped by the vines and fell to the ground, but she didn't feel pain. She just sat on the ground and silently let her tears flow. She did not know why she was crying. "My silly girl, I have been looking for you for more than 10 years. You are still as silly as before." Suddenly, a soft male voice came from behind. Mu Ying paused. She knew who the male voice was, but she did not dare to turn around. However, she felt the owner of the male voice squat down and hugged her from behind. He pulled her up from the ground with one hand and then pulled her into his arms. Chapter 14-15. After Mad Dragon finished speaking, Mu Ying's body trembled even more. It was a feeling of agitation, excitement, happiness, and despair. She didn't know what to say, and neither did Mad Dragon. The two of them stood there in a daze. Mad Dragon hugged her and didn't move an inch. It wasn't until the sound of footsteps came from behind her and a furious male voice rang out that everything was stopped. This furious male voice came from the mouth of the boy she had been familiar with for more than 10 years, but had never fallen in love with. "Who are you? Let go of my Ying." After Yun Jian saw Mu Ying running away, Mad Dragon chased after her. In the end, Lang Hanja chased after her as well. After Lang Hanja chased after her, Lang Lingling, Guo and the rest all ran after her. The only people left standing were Dan Qingjie and the two groups of tourists. When Yun Jian saw this, she also ran over. Before she ran over, she said to Ce, "I'll go take a look." After Yun Jian went over, Ce scanned the scene with a pair of sharp eyes. Then, she left with Yun Jian, "I'll kill whoever dares to come over." Coupled with the sight of Janice's corpse on the ground, everyone's legs stiffened. At this moment, no one dared to follow them. However, they didn't dare to leave this place on their own. After all, this was the Amazon forest. Coupled with the danger they had encountered previously, this group of people could only stand there and wait for Yun Jian to return. When Yun Jian arrived, she saw Lang Hanja looking at Mad Dragon hugging Mu Ying. He roared at Mad Dragon, "Who are you? Let go of my Ying," and rushed forward. Lang Lingling, who was standing behind Lang Hanja, shouted at Lang Hanja's back, "Brother." Then, she glared hatefully at Mu Ying, who was being hugged by Mad Dragon from behind. "It's all her fault. It was all her fault. Go to hell, why don't a fickle woman like you go to hell? My brother has been chasing you for so many years. If you were a human, you would have responded to him long ago. What about you? Not only did you not respond to him, but you even hugged another man. How shameless. Lang Lingling didn't give any face to Mu Ying and cursed her with all kinds of words. Just as Lang Hanja was about to run forward and try to pull Mad Dragon away from Mu Ying's waist, Mad Dragon suddenly reached out a hand and grabbed Lang Hanja's collar. Lang Hanja was thrown far away. Brother! Brother! Ah, you two are having an affair. Shameless. Lang Lingling saw her brother Lang Hanja being thrown out. She was so angry that she wanted to rush over. Lang Lingling wanted to rush forward, but she was caught by Yun Jian. Yun Jian grabbed Lang Lingling's collar and slapped her 3 times. Slap. 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 The 3 slaps were exceptionally loud in the silent forest. When Lang Lingling came back to her senses, she glared at Yun Jian angrily. How dare you hit me? Why wouldn't I dare to hit you? Your brother's feelings for Mu Ying are just one-sided. Does she have to be with your brother just because he likes her? Yun Jian scoffed. No. No. Ying and I are from the same world. Since we were young, everyone around us said that we're a match made in heaven. Moreover, we're both from military families, so we're the best match. He's a despicable person. He's a despicable person. Lang Hanja was in pain, but he endured it and got up from the ground. He pointed at Mad Dragon and said hatefully. Yun Jian laughed when she heard that. She sneered and asked Lang Hanja, do you know who I am? Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, and the rest only reacted when they heard Yun Jian's question. She was a secret agent. The kind that could kill. Moreover, she was the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, slaying God. Just as they thought that, they heard Yun Jian say with a smirk, she's the same as I am. She, who once lived a life of war, will never be from the same world as you. Yun Jian's words stunned Lang Hanja and Lang Lingling. What? Mu Ying. Chapter 14-16. They would never be from the same world. His Mu Ying was also a secret agent. Lang Hanja was stunned. He had never thought of this possibility. Lang Hanja was already shocked when he found out that Yun Jian was the #1 secret agent on the secret agent ranking list. He never expected Yun Jian to say that he and Mu Ying would never be from the same world. Because was she the same as Yun Jian? No. That's impossible. Ying has always been by my side since I was young. She never left me. How could she be the kind of person you're talking about? I don't believe it. You're that kind of person yourself. Don't compare my Ying to you. Lang Hanja loved Mu Ying to the point of insanity. He didn't believe Yun Jian's words at all. He even yelled at Yun Jian. Yun Jian chuckled at Lang Hanja's words. Mu Ying stood up and let go of Mad Dragon's embrace. She stopped Yun Jian. Yun Jian, this is my problem. I'll settle it myself. Mu Ying had recovered from the tense atmosphere. Okay. Yun Jian nodded and stood beside Ce, who had just walked over. Lang Hanja looked at Mu Ying with pleading eyes, as if he wanted to get the answer he wanted. But Mu Ying said, Yun Jian is right. I'm not the real Mu Ying. I'm just a wisp of consciousness. The real Mu Ying died in a car accident when she was young. Do you still remember that crazy doctor? He was the one who injected my consciousness into the dead Mu Ying. As for me, I was just a nameless assassin in the Enhun organization back then. I was once abducted into the organization along with hundreds of other children. I lived an ignoble existence in the cruel world. In the end, my limbs were cut off, my heart was dug out while I was still alive, and I was a pitiful little girl who was torn apart by wolves and dogs. Your Muing, your beloved Muing, is dead. Mu Ying's words hit the nail on the head. Lang Hanja was stunned by Mu Ying's words. He couldn't believe it, and he didn't dare to imagine that the girl he had loved since he was a child had changed halfway through. You're lying to me. Lang Hanja shouted at Muing like a madman. Muing stopped breathing after the car accident. I was the one who came back to life when she was buried, so she is already dead. I am me, I am My. Muing suddenly raised her voice. This made Lang Hanja completely believe him, and his mind was in a mess. If that was the case, then what was he? Did he love the young Muing or the current Muing? What was he after? Lang Hanja sat on the ground, completely paralyzed. How did you die? Cut off your limbs. Dug out your heart. Torn apart by wolves and dogs. This is a lawful society. How could such a cruel thing happen? Lang Lingling didn't care if Lang Hanja believed it or not. Lang Lingling's focus wasn't on the fact that Muing was no longer the Muing she used to be. Lang Lingling, Guo Xiao and the others were just normal students after all. They had never heard of such a horrifying way of dying. Not to mention that such a horrifying person was standing right in front of them. Lang Lingling felt a chill run down her spine. Muing didn't reply to Lang Lingling, but Yun Jian did. Yun Jian smirked and told Lang Lingling, "You're right." Chapter 14-17. Lang Lingling and this group of obedient girls who were protected in the arms of their parents would never be able to understand how they, who lived in this cruel and murderous world, managed to survive. Perhaps to them, the best life wasn't that tomorrow would be better than today, but that tomorrow they were still alive, that they weren't dead yet. Hearing Yun Jian's serious words, Lang Lingling gulped. She was sure that the current Muing was no longer the Muing of the past. After all, Muing was her best friend when they were young. Ever since Muing got into a car accident when they were young, she changed. She often hid in a corner and ignored her and her brother, Lang Hanja. From then on, Lang Lingling hated Muing. Perhaps Lang Lingling didn't hate Muing back then. She just didn't want to play with Muing anymore. Later on, Muing refused to be with her brother, Lang Hanja. Seeing how her brother did so much for Muing but didn't get anything in return, Muing started to hate Muing. Lang Lingling believed it when she got the answer. The Muing of the past and Muing after the car accident were too different. But Lang Hanja was different. He didn't believe it because he didn't want to accept the truth. Ugh! Is the world you live in really that scary? Lang Lingling muttered after hearing Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian ignored Lang Lingling this time and smiled coldly. Yun Jian, we. Muing, who was standing not far away, signaled Yun Jian. Yun Jian saw Mu Ying's signal and suddenly realized something. Then, Yun Jian walked towards Lang Lingling. Muing walked towards Lang Hanja. Seeing Muing walking towards him, Lang Hanja thought that his Ying was back. Ying. Are you planning to? Before Lang Hanja could finish his sentence, Muing appeared in front of Lang Hanja and knocked him unconscious with a horizontal slash. Brother! You guys! Lang Lingling was so shocked by the sudden turn of events that she let out a cry. Just as she spoke, she was knocked unconscious by Yun Jian. Lang Hanja and the others fainted. These people's memories could not be kept, especially since they already knew that Yun Jian was the top secret agent in the international secret agent ranking, slaying God. After the group of people were knocked unconscious, Yun Jian took out 3 bottles of chemical solvent from her bag. The liquid in these bottles was a new liquid called the 3-hour amnesia liquid that Qing Yu had recently developed. As long as a person drank a little of this liquid, they would forget everything that happened 3 hours ago. This was Qing Yu's latest product and it was one of a kind in the world. She did not sell it but gave Yun Jian 3 bottles. Yun Jian's identity as the top secret agent ranking, slaying God, was exposed. Not only would Lang Hanja and the rest have to forget about it, even the group of people who came with the tour group would have to forget about it. Therefore, after knocking out Lang Hanja and the rest, Yun Jian gave each of them a drop of the amnesia liquid. She then got Mad Dragon to knock out everyone in the tour group and gave each of them the 3-hour amnesia liquid. They were very close to the entrance of the Amazon forest, so they were not afraid that no one would notice them if they were knocked out. Yun Jian only used 1/3 of the 3-hour amnesia liquid from one of the 3 bottles. By the time Yun Jian rescued the savage from the Wildlife Research Institute nearby and brought him back to the tribe, it was already evening. Lang Hanja and the rest, including Dan Qingjie and the tour group, were all knocked out. It was obvious that they had forgotten everything that happened 3 hours ago. Chapter 14-18. They did not find the old man who had saved Muing back then, so Yun Jian, Muing, and the others returned to Min City. Muing was saved by the old man when she entered the Amazon forest. If it were not for him, Muing would not have been able to survive 6 months in the Amazon forest with her ability back then. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had survived there for 6 months with her own ability. Compared to Yun Jian, Mu Ying's ability was indeed weaker. It was also evident that Yun Jian was one of a kind to be able to survive 6 months in the Amazon forest with her age back then. Muing was grateful to the old man for saving her life back then, but she still could not find him even after walking around the Amazon forest and nearly turning over the soil on the ground. In the end, Muing could only accept her fate and return to Min City. Muing went back to Min City while Yun Jian went back to Longmen City. Muing went to Min City with Mad Dragon as well. Although Muing felt that she was not good enough for Mad Dragon now, she could not bear to chase Mad Dragon away, so both of them went back together. Yun Jian went back to Longmen City with Ce. After staying in Longmen City for 3 to 4 days, the 7-day break after the military training was over. Yun Jian was ready to head back to Min City's military academy for class. Ce did not have time to accompany Yun Jian to class, but before Yun Jian left, he hugged Yun Jian and let Yun Jian sit on his lap affectionately for a while. Xiao Jian, I can't get away for a while. Come to Enhan for me later. In the room, Ce hugged Yun Jian's slim waist, refusing to let her go. He let Yun Jian sit on his lap and pressed his lips to Yun Jian's ear softly. Yun Jian was numb from Ce's breath, but she dared not move. She was pinned down by Ce, so she could only curl up and take it. She dared not move because she was sitting on his lap. Yun Jian was wearing a short white skirt and a pair of panties today. Ce's pants were so thin that it was as if he was wearing nothing. She was so shy that her face turned red. Let go of me, I have to catch the bus. I'll be late for class. Yun Jian pushed Ce as she blushed. No. He spoke even more boldly. As he spoke, he placed his slender hand on her smooth thigh under her short skirt and gently rubbed it. Xiao Jian, you're so beautiful. Ce almost wanted to melt into her body. Xiao Jian, it's 6. The bus leaves at 6:30. Aren't you awake yet? You'll be late for school later. Qin Yiru's voice rang as she came up the stairs. The sudden voice made Yun Jian blush as she pushed Ce again. With this push, a certain part of her body that was only covered by a thin layer of clothing rubbed against him twice. It would have been fine if it was not rubbing, but once it did, Yun Jian could feel a certain part of Ce's body bulging. With that, Ce's breathing beside her quickened. Let go. Yun Jian's expression could no longer be described as bashful. Xiao Jian, why aren't you up yet? You weren't like this before. Get up now. Qin Yiro came up the stairs and was coming to the room. Xiao Jian, move again and I'll take you, Ce suddenly whispered in Yunjian's ear. Yunjian's face flushed at once and she did not move anymore. Chapter 14:19. Just as Qin Yiro opened the door, she saw Yunjian standing in front of her in a white miniskirt. Her daughter was looking at her with a blushing face. Xiao Jian, what's wrong? Qin Yiro was surprised. Did you bully Ae? What Qin Yiro said next, however, made Yunjian wonder if she was Qin Yiro's biological daughter. Mom, I didn't. Yunjian said as she walked around Qin Yiro and went downstairs, reaching for her bag as she walked. Breakfast is on the dining table. Remember to bring it to the car. Qin Yiro watched Yunjian's back as she hurried down the stairs. She covered her mouth and chuckled before calling out to Yunjian. Yunjian hummed in response and went downstairs to pick up the breakfast that Qin Yiro had put in a white plastic bag from the dining table before heading out. She drove the car to Min City Military Academy. The 7-day holiday was over and today was the 10th of September. It was also the official start of Yunjian's school at Min City Military Academy. Hence, Qin Yiro wanted her to change into a white miniskirt with a pink top. Yunjian did not mind as she changed into it. She was also puzzled why Ce did not tell her to wear such a short skirt today. Shaking her head to stop thinking about it, Yunjian picked up her breakfast and carried her bag before heading out. Inside the house, Ce smirked. He was still thinking about how alluring Yunjian looked under her miniskirt. He would never tell anyone that he did not stop Yunjian from wearing such a short skirt today because, cough. It was already 8:30 a.m. when she arrived at Min City Military Academy. 9 o'clock was the school arrival time. Considering that the students came from far away, the school purposely allowed them to arrive before 9 o'clock on the first day. The next day, he would wake up at his normal time. Yunjian attracted a lot of attention as soon as she arrived at school. She still had her hair tied up in a high ponytail, but she wore a white short skirt and a pink top. She had a beautiful face, and her perfect face attracted the attention of countless people around her. Even the girls couldn't help but take a few more glances. Yunjian, I'm here. Come here quickly. Lin Wan was already waiting for Yunjian at the school gate. When she saw Yunjian, she rushed over and looked at Yunjian from head to toe. Hey, Yunjian, this short skirt really matches you. It's so beautiful. As she spoke, Lin Wan looked around again. She didn't see Muing. Why isn't Muing here today? I remember that she was always the first one to arrive. Let's stand here and wait. Yunjian pointed at the security post at the school gate and said. Okay. Lin Wan nodded. Then, she stood with Yunjian at the security post at the school gate and waited for Muing. Just as Yunjian and Lin Wan stood there, a female teacher on duty at the school gate who was less than 1.5 meters tall and wore a pair of stilettos saw Yunjian. She was about 150 kilograms in weight but was less than 1.5 meters tall. She was dressed fashionably in a pair of stilettos. The female teacher on duty saw Yunjian's beautiful figure. She was even wearing a white short skirt. Her perfect figure really made people jealous. So, the female teacher on duty came over and shouted at Yunjian, "Which class are you from?" Yelling wasn't enough. The female teacher even handed her duty book to Yunjian. Then, she shouted at Yunjian, "Write down your class name. Our school is a military school. Since you're here, don't you know the rules of the military school?" Chapter 14:20. The female teacher's voice trembled as she spoke. Her breasts were very big, and they kept trembling as she spoke. The female teacher's breasts were very big, but the fat on her abdomen was even bigger. As her breasts trembled, the fat on her abdomen trembled even more fiercely than the fat on her breasts. When the female teacher said this, she did not give Yunjian and Lin Wan a chance to speak. Instead, she spoke even more fiercely. Her words were like a machine gun, and she did not even give them a chance to take a breather. You girls only know how to dress up. How dare you come to school wearing such a short skirt? This is a military school, hey. Do you know what a military school is? Don't make yourself look like a gorgeously dressed chicken. The boys in our military school will fight for the country's career in the future. They won't waste themselves by dating little girls like you. You girls, why don't you go to high school and come to our military school? Don't tell me you're here to seduce our boys to date you. The female teacher on duty was getting more and more ridiculous with her words. Yun Jian did not know the rules of the military school, but since she had broken the rules by wearing a short skirt as Qin Yiri said, she, Yun Jian, was not the kind of person who would ignore the school rules. Yun Jian had already taken the duty book and pen from the female teacher on duty. She planned to write her name and class on it. Since she had made a mistake, she was not the kind of person who would not admit it. However, this female teacher acted as if she had killed someone. She had not stopped talking since she spoke. This made Yun Jian, who was about to write her name and class on the duty book, stop. Hurry up and write. Write your name and class on it. You broke the school rules, so you should be deducted points. The female teacher on duty saw that Yun Jian had stopped writing, so she frowned and urged her. Teacher, this is our first offense, and we are freshmen. We have not learned the school rules. My friend will not wear short skirts in the future. Can you not deduct this point? Lin Wan spoke up for Yun Jian. Usually, the first 1 or 2 weeks of school was for the students to get used to the school rules and regulations. Even if the students' names were recorded during the week of duty, the points would not be deducted. This was because the students would definitely need to adapt to a new school. However, at this moment, Teacher Zhou was planning to directly deduct Yun Jian's class's score. Therefore, Lin Wan was not convinced. As a student, how dare you talk back to your teacher? The female teacher raised her voice at Lin Wan when she heard that. The female teacher had always thought that the military academy could only be a world for men. Girls like Yun Jian and Lin Wan, why did they come to the military academy to study? For a young lady to come to a military academy to study, other than wanting to fish for men, what else could she do? If they were asked to train, even the simplest thing like standing in a military posture in the morning would probably make them faint from the sun. If they trained for a long time, they would even complain that they would become tanned. They would even have to apply sunscreen before training. Wasn't this talking about these girls who came to the military academy? Why did they not attend a normal school but came to the military academy to suffer? Wasn't it just to hook up with male students? The more the female teacher thought about it, the more she felt that girls like Yun Jian and Lin Wan were despicable. She was about to use an even more exaggerated tone to insult Yun Jian and Lin Wan. A male voice came from the side. Yun Jian. Why are you standing here? The person who spoke was Gu Yunjian's comrade, Yu Xiaoluo. Yu Xiaoluo was also an instructor at Min City's military academy. When the female teacher saw Yu Xiaoluo, she was stunned. She was about to point out Yun Jian's evilness to Yu Xiaoluo. In the end, she heard Yu Xiaoluo pat Yun Jian's shoulder and praise her. Yun Jian, you're really something. You've won first place in the wilderness survival event. Only the 3 of you were sent straight to the elite class among the freshmen. Slashing God from Team Monarch lives up to her name indeed. You're amazing. Chapter 14:21. The news of Team Monarch slashing God entering Min City's military academy as a freshman had spread like wildfire in the academy. Even if the female teacher did not pay attention to the news, she would have heard about Team Monarch/God's impressive feats from others, not to mention that she was a snobbish teacher. The female teacher liked to hang out with other teachers in school and gossip about the male instructors and female teachers' family matters. She would also gossip about the new talent in the school and whether the talent had a backer. When she saw Yunjian and Lin Wan earlier, the female teacher instinctively assumed that Yunjian and Lin Wan were the kind of girls who came to the military academy to seduce the boys. She assumed that they came to the military academy for that. The female teacher hated girls who had no power or influence, had a better figure than her, dressed up to the nines in the military academy, and swaggered around the boys like chicks. Moreover, the school's rules clearly stated that female students were not allowed to wear short skirts. Using that as an excuse, the female teacher caught Yunjian and planned to give Yunjian a good scolding. That was what the female teacher thought and did. She wanted to teach Lin Wan, who was beside Yunjian, a lesson as well. However, she did not expect Yu Xiaoluo, Instructor Yu, to appear here. Instructor Yu was widely recognized as a young and promising instructor in the school. He was young and a very capable instructor. The female teacher wanted to use that as an excuse to criticize Yunjian in front of Instructor Yu so that he could help her teach Yunjian a lesson. However, Yu Xiaoluo walked up to Yunjian and patted Yunjian's shoulder, saying what he said earlier. Team Monarch/God. Before Team Monarch/God entered Min City's military academy, she had already caused a stir among all the instructors in the school. She had even caused the instructors to fight for her to join their team. A few days ago, she even won first place in the military training's outdoor survival event and was directly admitted to the elite class with 2 other girls. It was said that on the last day of the outdoor survival event, she represented Min City's military academy and destroyed the pride of Wulin Military Academy, which had always been at odds with Min City's military academy. Now, in Min City's military academy, God was the symbol of a legend. Even the instructors and teachers in the school could not help but feel respect when they heard the word. What more a mere female teacher like her? The female teacher on duty's face dropped to the freezing point. Yu Xiaoluo didn't know what the female teacher had just done. After hearing the female teacher's words, he laughed out loud and then responded to the female teacher. That's right, the killing god that everyone in our school is talking about is her. What do you think? Are you surprised? When I saw her this morning, I had the same reaction as you. I thought she was a weak little girl, but who would have thought? Ha! As soon as Yu Xiaoluo finished, the female teacher's face turned as red as a chili pepper. Not only did she suspect Yunjian, she even tried to make things difficult for Yunjian. However, the female teacher was also a person who changed her face faster than flipping a book. When she heard that Yunjian was slashing God, she immediately turned to look at Yunjian and put on a smiling face that almost squeezed her wrinkles together. So this beautiful girl is slashing God. I really didn't expect that, haha. As she spoke, the teacher looked at her watch and told Yunjian with a grin, "Students, go to class. 9:00 in the morning is considered as being late. Go now. It'll be bad if your homeroom teacher catches you being late." Chapter 14:22. Just now, the female teacher was clearly targeting her. Yunjian wasn't an idiot, so she naturally saw through it. Therefore, Yunjian decided to beat her at her own game and directly retorted back. This time, the female teacher was extremely embarrassed. The female teacher regretted that she wanted to deal with Yunjian. Especially now, in front of the most handsome, most outstanding, and youngest instructor in the school, the female teacher was really a bit shy. After all, she was only 28 years old and was still unmarried. To put it bluntly, the female teacher wanted to leave a good impression in front of an outstanding man like Instructor Yu. But who would have thought that Yun Jian wouldn't be like the previous students who obediently followed her words and walked through the school gate. Instead, she directly pointed out what she had just done in front of Instructor Yu. Wasn't this clearly making her lose face? The female teacher clenched her fist in her heart. But because Yun Jian was a killing god, she could only force a smile that was still trembling to face Yun Jian. Yo, hee hee, how could that be? Teacher was just joking with you guys. In any case, you guys are new students who just entered the school. It's normal that you don't understand the school rules. Wait until you're familiar with the school rules, then don't make such a low-level mistake again. In school, if you meet a kind teacher like me, then it's fine. If you meet a kind teacher like me, then it's fine. But if you meet a kind teacher like me, then... Ha! The female teacher didn't finish her words, but the meaning in her words was more or less incisive. Just hearing the sentence, if you meet a kind teacher like me, Yun Jian felt goosebumps all over her body. And I really haven't met a teacher who would stop someone on the first day of school wearing a short skirt and insist on deducting marks. Yun Jian very calmly said this embarrassing reality in front of the female teacher, without giving her any face. When these words came out, even Yu Xiaoluo felt a bit embarrassed. Ahem. That, Yun Jian, I think you guys should go back to the classroom first. It's already 8:43. Aren't you guys going to be late at 9 o'clock? Yu Xiaoluo stood up to ease the awkward atmosphere. We're waiting for a friend. Yun Jian said calmly. She then turned to the female teacher and said politely, thank you for asking me to stay, but I'm very sorry that you didn't manage to deduct points from my class today. After that, Yun Jian dragged Lin Wan to the other side to wait for Mu Ying. Cough, cough. I'll go take a look. Yu Xiaoluo didn't like talking to this female teacher who was almost 30 years old, wore a pair of high heels, and was less than 1.55 meters tall, so he casually found an excuse. The female teacher's ugliness was only one of the reasons. What Yu Xiaoluo didn't like was the conduct of the female teacher. Hey, instructor. You. The female teacher was a little unhappy when she saw Yu Xiaoluo walk away. Thus, she shouted at Yu Xiaoluo's back, Instructor, my name is Zhang Xiao, I'm the class teacher of grade 2, 3. The female teacher who called herself Zhang Xiao had always wanted to find a male instructor from the same school as her to be her boyfriend. It would be best if they could develop a husband and wife relationship. Instructor Yu was handsome and was about the same age as her, so Zhang Xiao couldn't help but have thoughts about him. When Yun Jian, Lin Wan, and Mu Ying went to report to the classroom, they were just a minute late. The three of them walked into grade 1, 2's back door together at the last minute. The grade 1 class officially started. Because there were only 3 people in the elite class, it was naturally impossible to set up another class so soon. In the following month, the school would select some good grade 1 students to enter the elite class together with Yun Jian and the other 2. In this month, Yun Jian and the other 2 naturally went to the class that they were assigned to previously like other students. Because today was the first day of school, there were no classes for the whole day. The class teacher assigned each student to their dormitory. Although there weren't as many girls as boys in grade 1, there were still quite a number. The dormitory was 6 people to a room. At this moment, Yun Jian was carrying her bag and heading to her own dormitory. Chapter 14:23. The dorms were assigned to all the girls in the first year of high school, regardless of class. 6 girls to 1 dorm. These dorms were assigned by the higher-ups of the school. The homeroom teacher, Teacher Chu, did not have the authority to do so. Due to the arrangement of the higher-ups, Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan were all not in the same dorm. Seeing this result, Lin Wan could not help but complain loudly, "Aw. We're not in the same dorm. I just went to Teacher Chu to change dorms. He said he did not have the authority to do so, Muing said. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. If it was a normal high school, the homeroom teacher would have the authority to change dorms. However, it was different in a military school. It was inevitable that there would be some discrepancies. Yunjian did not find it strange. At this time, on the way to the dorm building, Lin Wan leaned over to Yunjian and asked softly, "Oh right, Yunjian, which dorm are you in?" 602, Yunjian replied. "Wow. I'm in 603. That's not a problem. We're close. Although we can't stay in the same dorm, it's good that we're not far away," Lin Wan said loudly. "Oh right, Muing, what about you?" Lin Wan turned her head and asked Muing. "I'm in 603 like you," Muing said. There were actually only a few girls in the first year of high school. At most, they could form a class of 30 to 40 people. However, sometimes the probability was not high. When they were assigned dorms, they could not be in the same dorm. "Hey, how nice would it be if the three of us were in the same dorm?" Lin Wan sighed again. "It's okay. I can go over anytime," Yunjian said indifferently. "Hey, Yunjian, didn't the teacher say that our school rules state that students cannot casually sleep in the same dorm? You can't go to other people's dorms." Lin Wan pouted. "Then I'll sneak over." Yunjian's lips curled into a smile. Then, she walked towards the dormitory building ahead of Lin Wan and Muing. Muing and Lin Wan both smiled. Both of them had never seen Yunjian joke before. Now that they saw Yunjian grinning, they were both stunned. But soon, Muing and Lin Wan followed. The 6th floor of the female dormitory building. Room 602. Lin Wan stood in dorm 603 and looked at Yunjian reluctantly. In the end, she was pulled into her room by Muing. Yunjian tilted her head and smiled faintly. Then, she carried her bag and walked into room 602. As soon as she entered the room, Yunjian's roommates who had arrived at school were all in place. They were all sitting on their beds and tidying up their beds. When they saw Yunjian walk in, one of the girls standing at the door grinned at her but didn't say anything. Yunjian walked in with her bag on one shoulder. She had just walked into the room when suddenly, something fell from one of the beds. So annoying. I already said that I don't want to go to school in this damn place. Great, I didn't even bring my teddy bear. Without it, I can't sleep. It was a girl wearing a princess dress and dressed like a doll. She was sitting on the upper bunk bed. She was rummaging through her bag. Seeing that there was nothing in her bag that she wanted, she became impatient and threw a teacup from her bag onto the bed. Yunjian had just entered her dorm when she was hit. "Ah!" Someone came in. One of the girls couldn't help but exclaim when she saw Yunjian walk in and the teacup just happened to be thrown at Yunjian. The other girls were slightly frightened. However, they saw that after Yunjian sensed the danger, she reached out and caught the teacup that the girl in the princess dress had thrown from the upper bunk. Yunjian didn't even look up and caught it. Chapter 14:24. Several girls in the same dormitory thought that Yunjian would suffer. After all, the girl in the princess dress just now smashed the teacup off the bed in anger, so one could imagine how fierce that force was. Yunjian, on the other hand, had walked into the dorm without warning. That teacup was smashed so fiercely, it would be strange if this new student didn't suffer. But what the girls saw was that Yunjian stretched out her hand and caught the teacup. After reacting, the girls in the same dormitory were all surprised. One of the girls couldn't help but clap, and then gave Yunjian a thumbs up. "God. Classmate, what's your name? You're so amazing." This girl's praise didn't make Yunjian complacent. On the contrary, she didn't even show the slightest bit of a proud expression. Casually throwing the teacup on the upper bunk bed of the girl in the princess dress, Yunjian turned her head and glanced at the girl who gave her a thumbs up just now and asked, "Are there any more beds?" The beds here weren't fixed. Generally, the beds were first come, first served. Whoever grabbed the lower bunk bed would get the good spot. There's still a bed in the corner, it's the upper bunk. The girl who gave Yunjian a thumbs up said, and then she continued, "Classmate, you were so amazing just now. Is it convenient for you to tell us your name?" "Oh right, before asking for other people's names, you have to introduce yourself first." "Hee, my name is Ning Kai-dai, I'm a student of grade 1, 11, from Xia City, 16 years old this year. We have already introduced ourselves just now. Now our dormitory has 5 roommates including you, so you can introduce yourself again." A girl standing next to Ning Kai-dai put her arm around Ning Katie's shoulder and said to Yunjian. After saying that, the girl stuck her tongue out at Yunjian, and then lively introduced herself to Yunjian. "My name is Meng Xiaolian, I'm from Min City, 17 years old this year. Kai-dai and I are classmates in the same class." As she spoke, Meng Xiaolian tightened her arms around Ning Katie's shoulders. My name is Han Nina. I'm 16 years old this year. My nationality is Y country. My mother is Z country. Also, my Chinese isn't very accurate. Please take care of me." A girl who had been sitting in the corner stuck her head out and greeted Yunjian shyly. This girl had a head of naturally golden wavy hair. Her skin was fair, and her facial features were very delicate. She looked as delicate as a doll. The most eye-catching thing was that the girl who called herself Han Nina had blue eyes. Unlike modern girls who wore cosmetic contact lenses, Han Nina's eyes were sky blue. They looked very natural and beautiful. After Han Nina greeted them, Yunjian also felt the friendliness of her new roommate. She adjusted her backpack and grinned, revealing a row of neat front teeth. She smiled at the 3 girls in front of her. "My name is Yunjian." Obviously, the girls in front of her didn't know about Yunjian's achievements during the military training. Yunjian also didn't see these girls during the military training. They probably didn't participate in the military training. After all, not all students who came to the military school to become special forces or soldiers. The military school also had a major for training military doctors. Many female students still came to the military school to apply for the military doctor's position. Therefore, it wasn't strange that these female students didn't participate in the military training last time. "Yunjian, your name is really nice, Ning Kai-dai smiled at Yunjian. "You guys are so annoying. Keep talking. Can't you see that I'm so annoying? Could you please shut your mouths? I'm going to make a call." Chapter 14:25. Seeing that the person sitting on the upper bunk had flipped out again, Ning Kai-dai pursed her lips and hurriedly pulled Yunjian to the toilet. Then, she leaned over to Yunjian's ear and whispered, "She's called Qingjiaojia. I don't know which class she's from. Anyway, she got angry the moment she entered the dormitory. After greeting us, she sat on the bed and threw a tantrum. I don't know who provoked her, but I think she's quite difficult to get along with." "Oh right, there's another roommate in our dormitory. I heard that something happened at home, so she'll come back a few days later. Also, don't take the initiative to talk to Qingjiaojia. She's..." Ning Kai-dai didn't say anything after that. After Yunjian walked out of the toilet, she saw Qingjiaojia standing on the upper bunk bed with her hands on her hips. She was holding a cell phone in her hand and shouting at it. Yunjian didn't know who she was dialing. "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be a military doctor. I want to go home. Get the butler to drive me home." What? Mom won't let me. I don't want to. I'm studying in this lousy school, and I'm not allowed to go home. I can't even hug my teddy bear to sleep. I want to go home. I want you to get the butler to drive me home immediately. Otherwise, I'll complain to Grandma and get her to fire you. Regardless of Qing Jiaojia's identity, one could tell from her clothes and the way she was shouting at the person on the other end of the phone. Qing Jiaojia was most likely a rich young lady. She definitely had some status. Yun Jian carried her school bag and went straight to the top bunk bed in the corner. She threw her school bag on the bed, then grabbed the handrail of the top bunk bed. She didn't even put her leg on the steps of the top bunk bed. With a flip of one foot, she jumped from the ground to the top bunk bed that was about 1.45 meters high. Then, she began to tidy up her things. None of the girls in dormitory 602 came to the military school to learn martial arts, except for Yun Jian. Every girl here was here because they wanted to study military medicine. This meant that every girl here was no different from an ordinary girl. Therefore, when they saw Yun Jian jump onto the bed, every girl present opened their mouths wide in shock. Even Qing Jiaojia, who was still throwing a tantrum, opened her mouth and didn't react for a long time. Wow, my God! Yun Jian, why are you so powerful? Aren't you a medical student? When Ning Kaidai saw Yun Jian's move, she and Meng Xiaolian walked over in surprise. The two of them looked at Yun Jian in shock. Study medicine. Yun Jian's eyebrows twitched slightly, then she shook her head gently. No. Wow. Are you planning to become a soldier in the future? Ning Kaidai continued to ask in shock. Special Forces, Yun Jian answered with 3 words. That's so cool. Ning Kaidai shouted again. Shut up. All of you shut up. Do you still want me to talk on the phone or not? Qing Jiaojia roared again. This time, the atmosphere was completely stifled, and no one spoke. After tidying up their blankets and things in the dormitory, they returned to their respective classrooms. September 10th was the first day of school, and the students didn't attend classes on the first day. As soon as they arrived at the classroom, the homeroom teacher, Teacher Chu, announced a particularly delightful news. Students, the day after tomorrow, which is September 12th, is our school's 50th anniversary. In order to celebrate, the school is preparing to hold a food festival for the whole day. Because the announcement was rather sudden, the sophomores and juniors already knew about it. So tomorrow, the freshmen can go out to buy food and prepare for the food festival. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.